All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Hello, Doors and S1. Welcome back to Witch on the Holy Night, aka Mahoyo. I always wondered about that nickname, that shorthand title, Mahoyo. Like, I'm assuming it's like a shortening of the Japanese title, and it just kind of stuck. Anyway, last time, Alice and Aoko basically completely found out that it was Soujirou indeed who had penetrated the barrier somehow, which should be impossible because it was a really good barrier made by the senior witch Alice. And unfortunately, in this society of magic, if a civilian, normal human, happens to see your happens to see someone who see some magic, then you have to murder them, which I think is a bit harsh. I mean, seriously, come on. That wouldn't that be like way too much effort to actually like kill them, like remove them from the world? Like, wouldn't it be so much easier and more efficient to just rewrite their memory? That's what I'm wondering, because like then they'd have to cover up his death and everything like that, and like depending on the person who that is, if they have a lot of connections, like that seemed to, it just seems like way more can go wrong rather than just simply rewriting their memory. I don't know. It feels like unnecessary cruelty. Hello, Nado, and hello, Mirage. Welcome to the stream. Like, I wonder if there'll be a reason, like they actually, given that they actually have to die, like rather than just simply a memory rewrite. And Aoko herself is very torn up about this, and she's feeling, you know. She's like, oh God, I can't look weak in front of Alice, the senior witch who's been spending so much work to train me. So I guess we'll see their reasoning as we continue. Here we go. Although something tells me that actually killing him is not going to be that simple. This guy is clearly magical in some way on his own. Sure, but where and when do you plan to kill him? She said so quietly so as not to be overheard by anyone else. Normally, Aoko had to rein in that side of Alice, out in the open as they were, but this was far from a normal situation. The land of dreams? Tonight. As for the place, we shall meet him in the land of dreams. She gave a fearless laugh. A strangely pleasant sound, like the kind one would make when meeting their lover. Oh my God. I am so fucking stupid. Are you fucking serious? I had to wait two lines. Oh my God, I'm such a fucking moron. All right, let's see if there's anything new. I think this is it. I think this is new, I think. Oh my God, I'm so fucking stupid. Oh God. It doesn't say new? Okay. No 0.5. Are there ever going to be 0.5s again? Or was that just like a unique thing? I didn't. If I had known, I would have just finished it. Literally 2 fucking lines. Oh my god. Alright, well, at least we can start Chapter 5, Night of the Witches 1. Blind LP. Soujirou returned to his apartment on foot as per routine, under a blanket of clouds in the night sky. The rusty stairs of his apartment building clanged with each step. Out of the corner of his eye, he could see the bicycles parked by the apartment building's outer wall. He debated the pros and cons of a bicycle, how much easier life would be versus the expense, the convenience versus the necessity. But in the end, decided one was not right for him just now. Clutching the bag of apples under his arm, he took out the key to his residence. A bike sure would be convenient, but it's not like it. He tilted his head in confusion. More and more he found himself preoccupied with such random thoughts. And the real issue at hand was deciding what to do with the apples he had received. He placed the paper bag by the sink and switched on the lights. It was just after 10 in the evening. With the end of term exams just around the corner, he had come home an hour earlier than usual. As he made back for the kitchen to pick one of the apples to snack on, he found an envelope stuffed into his mail slot. The envelope had no name, return address, or stamp. Inside was a single piece of paper that had only the sender's name and a short message. It read,
話があるので、今夜どこそこのここに来られたし、大事なようなので、来るまでずっと待っている。言うまでもなく、他言無用。
Leaving a lot of evidence for police here. There is something important we need to talk about tonight. It's important, so I'll be waiting. Needless to say, keep this a secret. Concise set of orders, neatly written. It was signed Aoko Ozaki. Oh God. She had been considerate enough to enclose a detailed map of the meeting place. Puzzled, he cocked his head to the side and then headed out the door. Afterward, upon the room's sole tenant leaving the premises. Ah, there we go. The envelope burst into flames and evaporated without a trace, as though it had never existed in the first. There we go. There we go. But what if he had written down in like a journal he was going to meet her? By the late 80s, Japan's post-war economic boom had somewhat stabilized, and the city experienced a period of steady growth. The city's modernization marched on, and the Japan Railway's train station, a symbol of the new era, neared completion. In Misaki's neighboring town of Yashiroki, a new symbol of its own was about to be born. Damn. What the hell? Yashirogi bred in Kitsi land. It was Misaki's worst investment. Years later, it would be dubbed the fool's gold of the economic bubble, a relic of a bygone age. Hello, Spheromancer, welcome to the stream.
This city lacks aspiration and sophistication.
10 years ago, Yashirogi's renowned Tokitsu Baking Company ran factories all across the nation. I see Kitsu, that's the mascot. Its proprietor was a middle-aged gentleman, then age 56, by the name of Yurihiko Tokitsu, known affectionately by most as Top Hat. he took it upon himself to begin development on an estate on the outskirts of Yashidogi and broke ground on a recreational wonderland that he hoped to be the pride of Misaki City. Yes, answer. The long-awaited opening came in 1981. After 3 years of investment, this local amusement park full of all kinds of hopes and dreams began its short-lived tenure. It covered more than 85 square acres. Its magnificent merry-go-round dazzled all who passed through the park's gates. Hello, Nicholas. Welcome to the stream. Its roller coaster twisted and turned about the edges of the park like a writhing Japanese dragon. Its Ferris wheel, packed beyond necessity with gimmicks, was said to have tested the limits of modern engineering. This abandoned amusement park sounds like a really cool place to have magic fights.
完璧だ。遊園地に必要なものはすべて積み込んだ。
Alright, Mr. Kinzo.
It's perfect. Infused with everything an amusement park could ever need.
Old Yurihiko looked upon his creation and smiled. Only boosting his confidence was the fact that its grand opening was staged during a period of prosperity, the springtime of the world. But, in spite of this, they splendidly miscalculated the balance between aspirations and sophistication. Yeah, it is more like Kraus. Damn, how nightmarish. Its mascot, Kitsy, was poorly designed and appeared like a cheap knockoff. Park was served to the brim with bread stands. Even its impossible to navigate mirror maze seemed out of date from the start. There are no dreams to be out of Kitsyland, only nightmarish satire. Damn. Numerous trade magazines lambasted Kitsyland's shortcomings, and customer attendance declined. It was often called a place that would inspire many horror games of the 2000s. There was even an incident where a 6-year-old strayed from his mother had an accident and nearly died. Was that the bite of 87? No, cut. 1986. 5 years after the park opened. The situation had grown from bad to worse, and the park was hemorrhaging money. The funny thing is, it literally is the 1980s. So it literally could be called that. On top of everything, Yorihiko, who had bet everything on the success of mascot Kitsy, retired. And Kitsyland's operations were officially in trouble. And thus, amidst the scorn of nearly all residents of the area, ended Misaki City's one and only amusement park. What's more, perhaps best describes the footnotes to this debacle, the self-proclaimed Parisian artist who designed the mascot, Toki Julich, was said to have snapped his brush in mourning over the closure of the park. Return to the present. It was midnight, and the Kitsyland today was a shadow of its former glory. Like a doll, man in the corner of a toy box, the lonely park was illuminated only by the light of the town that continued to live around it.
So that's what happened.
Soujirou closed the Yashidogi guidebook that he had picked up on the way here. The story of its history was almost difficult to believe. We suppose this was people referred to as entropy. The park's front gate was unlocked. When he worked here the previous time, the iron fence was locked shut with a rusty chain, but the chain was nowhere to be seen and the gate left ajar. Following the map drawn in the letter, Soujirou quickly made his way inside.
急ぎのようなんだろうけど、
It sounded urgent, but to meet this late at night? What in the world could she want?
Soujirou complained, quite out of character for him. It was probably because, in spite of his naivete, even he knew something was amiss. Though the park was abandoned, this was still trespassing. Hello, Lestat, welcome to the stream. Unlawful entry, larceny, burglary. These were certainly not things or perhaps crimes that Soujirou was proud to do, but... Oh, God.
Sorry. I can't pay you any money. I'm really sorry for coming in for free.
Money, apparently, was why his conscience was gnawing at him. He clapped his hands in apology toward the statue of Kitsy. I think it's like a fucking deity statue, on whose eyes the pain had begun to aptly dissolve. Soujirou passed the mascot, bleeding red paint from its eye socket, and began to walk the night park. The building's colors had faded. The collection of machines was rusted. The man-made residents no longer felt the passage of time. Even the ghosts themselves could not endure the disparity between this forsaken place and its previous grand stature. It was like a fossilized dream. Well, that is really interesting, Spheromancer. Let me read what they said. Fun fact, this entire section was set in a school in the original published novel, but the writer thought there were enough school scenes in other novels and swapped it with this park for the VN. Interesting. I do wonder, like, if all these take place in, like, the same town? Or, like, all the Fate stories? I wonder. These were the ruins of paradise, both created and abandoned by man and reality. The economy had stabilized, and the standard of living was on the rise. Nobody was overly concerned with the future. These were the remains of a wild and exciting era. So Tsukihime is also in this town. Oh, but when it's remade, they changed the town? Oh, damn. Wow, that's a big change. His breath turned to white wisps before him. Soujirou continued through the abandoned amusement park. Though void of human presence, this was not nearly as frightening as the darkness deep in the mountains. City suburbs can take many different forms, but Kitsyland was unusual for an amusement park in so much that it has been built adjacent to a residential district. The park was surrounded by a forest, but even that ultimately was man-made. It was no different from the curtains on a classroom window. If he were to scale the iron fencing encircling Kitsyland and break through the 20 yards of forested trees, he could make it back to the familiar townscape. Though the amusement park tended to rouse dread in the city folk, Soujirou is little different from the commotion and terror of downtown.
I guess that's it.
Central Plaza was as silent as a grave. According to the map, the meeting spot was west of here. Waiting for Soujirou's destination was a rugged, imposing, magnificent castle, towering before the backdrop of the cloudy night sky. Even for an abandoned park, it was a remarkable structure. If the roller coasters and Ferris wheel were loud, intense attractions, this was comparatively quiet and easygoing. It was one of Kitsyland's 3 iconic structures, and in a way, the wicked fortress that guided this paradise down the path of closure. Generally speaking, amusement park mazes generally fell into one of 2 categories. Labyrinths, which distort visitors with their sheer size, and mirror houses, which disorient visitors with optical illusions. Many of a labyrinth guests enjoyed the brief sense of adventure that it afforded. Over the years, however, it would be usurped by the ever-increasing thrills of new attractions. Such was the way of all trends, the curse of fads. The new must give way to the newer. On the other hand, the House of Mirrors was a time-honored, beloved staple. Even within the confines of a classroom dimensions, well-placed mirrors and well-directed light could both perplex and delight its visitors. And figuring in the cost of maintenance, a well-designed House of Mirrors could far outlive its labyrinth brethren. Even if both types faded into obscurity, they remain a staple of what constitutes an amusement park. However, that didn't mean that combining them would produce double the fun. Oh God. Together they transformed from entertainment into an uncanny realm from which those who dared to step in could never leave. In a similar sense, Kitsy's Mystery Tour Castle was the park's very own otherworld. Indeed, 5% of visitors ended up requesting staff assistance to get out. Bundled after European castles, it was greater than a football field in length, and the interior was further split into 3 floors. 2 floors above ground and 1 below, lined with mirrors from top to bottom, equal parts complex and vast. The maze demanded at least 30 minutes even from veterans. Jeez! Rich people, man. My God. One visit was all it took to be struck by claustrophobia for hours. It was this labyrinth that now stood in Soujirou's way.
真っ暗ってわけじゃないな。電気とかついてるんだろうか。
It looks like it's not entirely pitch black. I guess somebody turned the lights on.
It seems that Soujirou, unaware of what a House of Mirrors even was, concerned himself only with its lighting. He checked the letter from Aoko once more. The letter read, "I'll be waiting in the first floor lobby of the House of Mirrors." That meeting place was definitely in here. There was something to see by at least, as he could just make out light faintly through the open doors. Putting aside his suspicions, he headed toward the entrance. The sound of his steps against the brick-laid path echoed faintly. He was far from the hustle and bustle of the city. The park's clocks no longer made tick nor tock, and the winter's bite no longer blew in the night. Oh, now we're getting all poetic here. From within the silence, the stillness that would cause any onlooker to hold their breath.
Hello?
Soujirou stopped abruptly at the entrance to the House of Mirrors.
ところで青崎、そんなところで何してるんだ？
By the way, why are you over there, Ozaki?
He called out, turning back toward the plaza. A sound rang out as if someone had dove behind a garbage can and fell to the ground in their haste. A short silence ensued. For a moment, the abandoned park returned to its previous hush. Resigned to her having been exposed, the girl appeared from her hiding place. Oh, damn. What's she wearing here?
Oh,
Oh,
Ah, nice witch outfit. That's pretty cool. I like it. His voice died in his throat as he took the side of the girl's familiar face in unfamiliar attire. This Aoko, with her long flowing hair in the breeze, was different from the Aoko that Soujirou knew. The resolute stance and posture she took exuded the strength of her will. She stared directly at him with a sharp-eyed, piercing gaze. Her eyes were glowing with a dim phosphoric light, enough to give Soujirou a pause that he might be hallucinating. An icy coldness in a girl's strength. Soujirou lacked a sense of danger, but the sense of imbalance caused even him to feel the malice in the air. It was as though the Yuki-onna spirit of folklore had climbed out from a ghost story and appeared here in reality.
Aozaki.
Ozaki?
Instinctively, Soujirou took a step back. Surprised, he was starting to feel concerned. An unpleasant premonition rose to the surface, bringing with it a sense of anxiety. In spite of this, he felt obliged to honor urban etiquette by seeing if she was all right.
その顔を見るに何かあったのかと一応聞いておくんだけど。
Did something happen to you? From the looks of it,
Without acknowledging him, Aoko took a step forward. Her figure, this atmosphere, Soujirou found himself recalling a recent memory. His twisted and gnawed apprehension melted away and was replaced with a growing realization. The girl before him was very similar to someone he had seen before, that night in the park, though he had only seen her from behind. With increasing certainty causing him to swallow nervously, he noted that they might as well have been identical.
何をしていたかって話なら見ての通りよ。
You asked me what I was doing. Well, it's exactly what it looks like.
ここで獲物が通り過ぎるのを待ってたの。あなたが入ってから私も入って逃げ道をなくすつもりだったから。
I was waiting for my prey to pass by. Once he went inside, I was going to follow and cut off your only route of escape. Aoko said, perturbed by the swift change in plans.
そうか。待ち合わせ場所は合ってたんだな。
huh. So I came to the right place.
Oh my god. Soujirou was finally relieved he had not gone to the wrong place. It was unclear whether he felt confident about dealing with what was to come, or if he had simply failed to grasp the hopelessness of the situation. Aoko ignores his obtuse response and continued.
私はね、しずきくん。
You know, Suzuki.
嫌いな人とか憎い人とかは人並みにいるんだ。
Just like anyone else, some people get on my nerves and some people I just really hate.
ただ、ちょっと変なのが敵になるやつの条件でね。
But the funny thing is, my enemies are never people on my shit list. Cold emotion burned in her eyes. Her feet had already moved one step closer to Soujirou. Soujirou's sense of foreboding was growing stronger. Wondering if what he sensed was bloodlust, he retreated another step. Continuing as so, they maintained a distance of just 15 feet.
昔から私は嫌いな相手でも敵と思ったことはなかったの。
As far as I can recall, I've never thought of someone I didn't like as an enemy.
でも逆に好きな相手を敵だと思うこともあった。
As it happens, I've even had enemies that I liked.
理由は単純。
And the reason is simple. She held her right arm out. The light about her was no illusion.
当たり前のことだけど。
It's simple, really.
私は私の感情を乱すやつが敵なのよ。
Anyone who throws me out of whack is my enemy. Her arm moved again. It was instantaneous. Energy ball! Oof. Something shot past Soujirou in the blink of an eye, missing him by just a foot to his left.
What?
Oh! She missed. Before his eyes, a blue light, something akin to a fireball, had ignited from nothing. He finally understood what was happening.
ちょっと待った。今のは大変見覚えがある。
Wait a second. I've seen one of those before.
She ignored his dim-witted reaction.
外したか。
Damn it, I missed. Aoko muttered to herself. The fist-sized hole that the blue light made in the house of mirrors crackled and smoldered. A shot like that could easily cave in a human skull, in addition to burning it to a crisp.
ああ、こんな射程で外すなんて、アリスに見られたら自殺者ね。
I'd have to kill myself if Alice saw me miss at this range.
でも、これで分かったでしょ。二度目だものね。あなたにとっては。
But you get it now, right? This is it for you. There won't be a second chance. Well, yeah, she's still a trainee. Soujirou backed away swiftly. Things were beyond incomprehensible. He was close to losing the ability to think at all. All he could make out was the figure of the dependable student council president, or at least what he had thought was the president, and the memories of the park that night 2 days ago. He had never experienced anything like this, though most people living in a civilized country would never have seen anything like it either. A lethal weapon that could kill with nothing more than the pull of a finger, had a way of suspending the ability of its target, determined between not just good and evil, but dreams and reality, past and future. And the more peaceful someone's life had been, the stronger that suspension was likely to be. All that one could think about was the fact that they were alive at that very moment. It was as if he was an unwritten character on a blank piece of white paper. There was no before, there was no after. There was only what came next. This is a very common thought process for anyone staring down the barrel of a gun.
あ、命乞いはやめてね。意味ないから。
Oh, don't bother begging. It's pointless.
でも、恨み事ならご自由に。殺す側の義務として一言一句聞いてあげる。
But feel free to air your grievances. It's a killer's duty to listen to her victim's last words. By saying it was pointless, she made it sound more like she would not listen to what he had to say. However, Soujirou was in such a state of shock that it did not even enter his mind to speak up. All he knew, for reasons unknown, was that the girl in front of him wanted him dead.
嘘つきにも程がある。
You could have told me, Tobimaru.
飛び丸のバカ。何がそんな生き物はいないだ。実際いるじゃないか、こんなお化けみたいなのが。
You said that no such thing exists. Well, how about now, idiot? There's a monster right in front of me.
Soujirou felt that he had said that aloud. The second blast would come even quicker than the last, so he kept it to himself. This mental expletive stirred his mind from paralysis to mere panic. This response came not from confidence, however. Someday, out of the blue, someone is going to kill me. While it may seem like a baseless belief to hold,
そうだった。都会には殺人事件がある。
Oh, but now that I think about it, murders happen all the time in cities.
ルールを破れば殺されるのは当たり前だって、ちゃんと教えてもらってた。
I should have remembered. If you break the rules, you get killed. I knew that already.
to Soujirou, the situation seemed perfectly aligned with his inexperienced understanding that the city was a coldly pragmatic place. As far as he was concerned at this moment, being killed by a classmate was not something to be so surprised by. Oh God. Innocent to the end. In a society where murder was possible, he was able to accept this sort of situation as natural. Of virtually no concern was the series of events that led to Aoko's aggression toward him. The only thing that truly confused him was Aoko's blue fireball. Soujirou swallowed with an audible gulp. And to anyone who may have been watching, it was the response of a victim paralyzed by fear.
そういうことよ。ようやく理解してくれたわね。
That's right. So you do finally get it.
多くは語らないけど、あなたにはここで死んでもらう。
I'm all out of words, so I think it's time you died.
魔術は隠匿するものなんて言ってもそっちには関係のないことだし、単に運がなかったって思えばいいわ。大事なのは私があなたを殺したってことだけだから。
Aoko, I don't know about if you know tropes, but you're really standing in the place of the first opponent in a shonen manga where the hero awakens his power. I'd be pretty careful if I were you about explaining this shit. I could go on about how Magecraft had to stay hidden, but that doesn't really have anything to do with you. All you need to know is that you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that it was me who killed you. Done talking, Aoko once again lifted her right arm. Oh, wow. There was a hum like a machine. The blue light began to revolve around her arm beneath her sleeve. This was taking longer than last time, leading Soujirou to believe that it was going to be much stronger than the attack that was still scorching the wall behind him. The realization caused his panic to heighten.
いや、なんだ、つまり始末するとかしないとか、あの夜のお化けは青崎だったとか、都会は本当に込み入ってるとか、そういうことじゃなくて。
No, wait. It's not about me having to die, the fact that the monster last night was actually Ozaki, or even whether she's a part of the church. It's not about any of that.
His thoughts became jumbled. His heart pounded like a hammer. This was no time to be standing still. He was not sure if the girl in front of him was really human, and more importantly, even if he could accept the events unfolding before him. When all was said and done,
待て、人殺しはいけないんだぞ。
oh my god!
Wait, it's wrong to kill people!
Oh my god. Even if it was a fact of life in the city, Soujirou was not about to lie down and die.
分かってるわよ、そんなことは。
Don't you think I know that?
Hey, wait!
Soujirou screamed, still entirely oblivious. It was just the thing to evoke Aoko's full wrath. Oh, damn! That looks so cool.
Ah!
Aoko fired a barrage of magical blue bullets. In an instant, Soujirou dashed into the shadows behind him, into the entrance to the House of Mirrors.
What the heck was that?
Seriously, Aoko, you're putting yourself in a bad position here. I'm warning you. He darted feverishly down the hall. After a mere few feet, he was left completely out of breath. This was due to his shock at seeing another attack fiercer than the first that he'd never seen in his life, and because he couldn't shake the thought that if he had moved even a second later, he would be dead. He could not afford to stop. The sound of merciless footsteps closed in behind him.
けど助かった。ここならなんとか。
I bought myself some time. Maybe here I'll be able to figure out something.
He threw everything in his legs as he sprinted. A straight, narrow passage about 60 feet long connected the entrance to the main lobby. At this rate, if he could just make it to the lobby, he was sure he could be able to find as many hiding spots as he needed.
助かった。
Thank God.
He arrived in a large open space. This was the first floor lobby. There were 3 passageways. One led to the basement floor. One connected the first floor maze. The other was a set of stairs leading to the second floor. Soujirou did not particularly care which one he chose, so, trusting his intuition, he made a run for the first floor maze when...
Ah!
He smacked his head into a transparent wall.
鏡
A mirror?
ええ、面倒だけど、それならフェアでしょ。
That's right. It's annoying, but I guess this makes things fair.
追いかける方にも逃げる方にも有利不利がある。
The chaser and the chased are on equal ground. A somehow cheerful voice echoed in his direction. There was no need for Soujirou to even turn around. In the very same mirror he had crashed into, he could see Aoko Azaki's figure slowly approaching.
それと、1階の奥にある出口は封鎖しといたから。結界じゃなくて物理的に。
You should know. I sealed off the first floor exit deeper inside. Physically, not with the bounded field.
やりすぎて封鎖っていうより瓦礫？土砂崩れ？どっちでもいっか。とにかく下手に出口に近づくと崩落に巻き込まれるから。生き埋めが嫌なら近寄らないことね。
Damn pauses. Is calling it a seal going too far? Maybe plugged or buried works. Either way, if you get too close, you'll be swallowed by a cave-in. I recommend keeping your distance if you don't want to be buried alive. Panicked by the impending footsteps, Soujirou gripped for the wall. You can see the stairs to the second floor. He did not understand what Aoko had meant earlier, but he at least knew that the first floor was not going to save him.
ま、私としてはそっちのが助かるけど。
It would save me a lot of trouble if you just died that way, though.
形式上、事故死の方が後始末とか楽だから。
The cleanup is much easier for accidental deaths. Behind him was a creature beyond words. As she continued her idle taunting, she lifted her right arm ostentatiously. Even from above her clothes, one could see some kind of strange, incongruous pattern upon her body. The veins beneath her skin. They made it seem as though something inhuman was circulating in her body. Whether out of pity or repulsion, Soujirou stopped for just a moment. His pursuer evaded his gaze.
ああ、これ？普段は塗り薬で隠しているんだけど、今日は特別。
You've noticed then. I normally hide it with ointment, but today is special.
魔術刻印って言ってね、魔術師の証みたいなものよ。
It's called a magical crest. It's proof that I'm a mage.
ほら、光が回ってるでしょ？これがさっきのスナップ。わかりやすく言うと弾丸の元。
You see this light revolving around me, right? It's the beginning of what formed that snap. Those bullets.
今日は調子いいし、私 魔力を効率よく使うのだけは自信あるし。うん。あと30回ぐらいかな。さっきみたいな操作ができるの。
Wow, Aoko, you are setting up all your flags here. Seriously. I'm feeling pretty good today, and I've never felt more confident how to use my magical energy efficiently. I think I'm good for another 30 bullets or so. Perhaps she was on an emotional high, for her voice had become frightfully friendly. Aww. The substance of the conversation could not have been any more unsettling, however.
そもそも何を言っているかよくわからないんだけど、青崎。
I don't understand a thing you're saying, Aozaki!
わからない？弾数はあと30発ってこと。
You don't? I'm telling you that I have more 30 more shots in the tank.
そこまで逃げ切ればあなたの勝ちよ。とりあえず今日のところはね。
If you can escape before I use them up, it's your win. For today, that is.
今日はって明日もあるのかな。
For today? You have to do this tomorrow, too?
Oh, God. Soujirou knit his brows. Aoko's expression creased into a scowl at his behavior. Although he was panicking, seeing that deep down he still did not feel the full weight of the crisis. She knew he still didn't get it.
宣言はしたわ。自由時間はこれでおしまい。
I said my piece. Free time's over.
まだ罵り足りないだろうけど、ま、その手の時間はキリがないしね。この辺りで諦めて。
I may still have some trash talk left in me. But, well, there's never enough time to get it all off my chest anyway. Just give it up already. It appeared Aoko had prepared this theatrical dialogue ahead of time. Aoko! I didn't know you were so silly about such things. Not to allow her opponent time for futile pleading, but to give him the time to curse her, his killer. Such forthrightness was her modus operandi. With this victim, however, it was not going as she had hoped.
とにかくそういうことだから。
She really doesn't want to do this. She's feeling really guilty. Maybe that's why her shots are missing. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
じゃ、狩りの時間と行きましょうか。
Shall we begin the hunt? Her voice was void of emotion, and her eyes ruthless as they bored into her prey. This time, Soujirou finally accepted that he was going to die. Silent as the dead, it stepped into the remnants of a dream that had long since seen no visitors. There was no wind on this night, nor a soul to be seen. Still, it heard the echoes from within, clasped its hands together, and grinned. Its form, with hands clasped, resembled that of a budding tulip. The bearing of this artificial flower reflected in the cloudy mirror of the ticket attendant's office next to the gate. Next to it stood a display board, corroded by years upon years of rust. Number of visitors today, 2. Number of today. The board had graffiti crudely scrawled upon one of the words. It was replaced with deaths. Damn. The records board had long ago fallen to disrepair. After taking a full 10 seconds to digest what it was looking at, it made its own revision. Number of visitors today. Oh. Number of deaths today, 1. Oh shit, someone else is coming here. Ooh, wow. Sans, what's going on? After appending this number with an index finger, she smiled like a flower. Then she began to walk toward the source of the sound. It had been 10 minutes since this rhapsody had begun to echo from the House of Mirrors. The amusement park's entrance returned to as it was before. Soulless. So that's how this is going to go down. She's going to be interrupted by whoever this is. In the end, even if Soujirou had been the luckiest man alive, there's no way he should have been able to escape. The question, however, was how much of this was by design, and how much was sheer coincidence. Even Aoko, who had made all the arrangements, had no answer. Indeed, there were only 3 things she could say. It was taking longer than expected. He was putting up more resistance than she had anticipated. And that choosing the House of Mirrors had been a mistake. She had really screwed the pooch on this one. The location itself was an excellent choice, as the House of Mirrors was perfect as a hunting ground. But seeing her own incompetence reflected in the mirrors was beginning to grate on her.
Ah!
The moment Aoko's right arm began to glow, Soujirou made a beeline for the staircase in front of him. A strobing series of blue flashes lit the room behind him. The hunter calmly followed her prey, and the prey desperately ran for his life up the stairs.
注文ど
Damn. It really is like a revolver loading bullets. Just what the doctor ordered.
そうでなくっちゃお膳立てした甲斐がない。
We can't very well let the best laid plans go to waste now, can we? In stark contrast to Soujirou's frenzied escape, Aoko walked briskly up the stairs. She elected not to run after her prey in order to maintain a set distance. As she lacked confidence in her accuracy, she would be the most challenged as Soujirou bull rushed her and went down fighting. But at a distance of 30 or so feet, he posed no threat. By the time her prey drew near, she could fire 10 shots and hit with at least 4 of them. Their positioning just a moment ago hadn't been ideal. At this distance, in a space this open, there was a chance, however, small, that could turn into a fistfight if he flanked and charged her. Currently, Aoko's best weapon was the bullets from her right arm. If she was going to capitalize on that advantage, it was in her best interest not to close the gap between them. If there was a good time to approach, it was only after her prey had become exhausted and he had lost the will to continue. Would she pierce his leg, shoot him in the back? Or perhaps would he just give up after losing himself in the labyrinth? The hunt would end when her target sustained some sort of injury and became unable to run. On Soujirou's end, he could barely bite back on screaming as he bolted through the maze. Even running in a straight line had become difficult, much less searching for an exit. Ah! The corridor stretched far before him, or so the mirrors blocking the path had made it seem. Panicked, he made a turn to the right.
Does that hurt?
Clutching his head right in his arm, Soujirou led with his left, groping through the air to see whether a wall was there or not. He dove down the hall to the left, narrowly dodging the bullets targeting his life. Urged on by the sound of approaching footsteps, he ran without thinking. The last one was close. A hair closer would have meant his life. He caught the odor of burnt hair from the back of his neck. He was very lucky. Or perhaps very unlucky. If he were actually lucky, he would not be in the situation in the first place. Second floor of the House of Mirrors was structured like a giant spiral. It wound left, starting from the outside wall, Eventually, it would lead to a dead end. The more he tried to escape, the more cornered he would become, as they were trapped in a twisted guillotine. His stifled screams threatened to leak out his complaints. No matter what he did, he was going to be killed. All of his struggling merely served to prolong the inevitable. He ran. No matter how many mirror walls he ran himself into, he ran. Even after crashing so hard that his forehead bled and he saw stars, he ran. Pain shot through him at every turn. The more frantically he ran, the more intensely he smashed into the invisible walls. His body began to understand this rule and begged him not to run anymore. His breath was already ragged after sprinting a couple hundred feet. No matter how much he thought about it, this was not normal. This was way too crazy. It's all just a bad joke. If he turned around now, she would apologize to him for taking it too far. His mind had gone blank. As his body continued to slam into the mirrors again and again, his feet slowed as he began to believe that perhaps it really was all a joke. But then he felt a chill. A touch of death upon his neck. Oh. It would not be an exaggeration to say that Soujirou knew this terrible chill far too well. Ever since he'd arrived in the city, he'd come face to face with more than one or two near-death experiences. For someone who did not understand city life, his present predicament was not unlike when he had experienced his traffic on the streets or the commuter rush on the station platform. He was far from an innocent babe unable to comprehend life or fear. Damn. How artistic. Wow. Everything he had ever known became irrelevant when he was flung into a completely different cultural sphere. Even society's promises of safety, something urbanites took for granted, were threats unknown. So he was used to this already. Though if he were to be honest, he was dissatisfied with some things. Things superfluous to necessity. This world was overflowing with valueless things, and they're all dangerous in some way. Hello, Oddjars, welcome to the stream. Even the everyday necessities sold at the convenience store were, as far as he concerned, amazing tools. Civilization had raised the standard of living so high that it had numbed humanity's sense of danger. The city's constant pursuit of wealth and convenience was a poison to a country boy like Soujirou. And he did not have the capacity to accept these conveniences. That it was possible for his conveniences to easily and suddenly be misused and cause unintended accidents had always made him anxious. Why? He had to wonder why he was even here. How ironic. It took the real threat of death to finally make him realize, like a divine revelation, what he failed to understand until now. He had always had to expect the unexpected. Near-death experiences are more common than one might think. To begin with, safety was something that came at a price. Being alive meant that the opposite was always lurking around the corner. It was just like a streetlight at night. When the sun rose, its illumination would naturally disappear. Another barrage of strange projectiles whizzed mercilessly by him. He recalled in the back of his mind the charred remains of someone at the hands of that blue flame 2 nights prior. Somehow the situation reminded him of a horse being led by a dangling carrot. For now he lifted his head and continued to run through the labyrinth. But for what purpose? Though he knew the pain in his chest was very real, he felt disconnected from it. The night sky visible through the skylight was a muddy ultramarine, no longer resembling the one he knew. And managed to calm himself. Soujirou began to laugh in despair, as if something rather precarious had been broken. Everything had become meaningless anyway. Even so, his legs somehow made their way forward at the sight of a reflection in the mirror. Like a game of cat and mouse, Soujirou reflected the labyrinth of mirrors. Then, after 4 minutes, that strangely unreal tension ended. The ninth shot of blue light hit inches away from him. It exploded the moment it made impact, launching Soujirou into the opposite wall. Oof! Of all the fire he had taken this far, this shot indisputably brought him the closest to death. Groaning, he collapsed to the floor. His back was on fire with pain. He was not bleeding, and was lucky he could still even scream. Yet his body refused to move. Physically and mentally, he still had something to spare. The pain was not so bad that he couldn't get back up. It was just that there was a skylight above him, and that he could glimpse the dark of the night sky beyond. The feeling that overcame him was a raw, selfish bout of grief. Oh, it was just so cruel to have to stare at that for the remainder of whatever short life he had left. Soujirou's ragged breathing slowed. For all intents and purposes, he had given up. He had given up fleeing from the pursuing footsteps, and perhaps even the root of all his problems. Damn! Oh, wow!
Well, at least it was Aozaki who got to kill me.
What a statement. Soujirou Suzuki felt things that, in any other circumstance, he would never feel. Incidentally, without exaggeration or embellishment, this was the only mistake he had ever made in his entire life. Staring vacantly into the night sky above, Soujirou listened as the footsteps drew nearer.
Give up?
You give up? It was the closest her voice had ever been to him. Perhaps feeling that he really had given up, she approached his collapsed form. In the dark, mirror-lined corridor, he could not make out her expression. Without a word, Soujirou raised his eyes to meet the murderer.
返事がないならそれでいいけど。
I suppose if you don't care, you don't have to ask.
調子狂うわ。普通どうして殺そうとするのかぐらい聞くものじゃない？
You really do throw me off. Most people would ask me why I'm going to kill them right about now. Aoko spoke from within the shadows. His eyes widened in bewilderment. Now that she had mentioned it, he realized that would have been the obvious question to ask. He had more or less picked up on the fact that he was being killed for learning some secret. But it was human nature to want to know more.
そっか。それはそうなるな。
That makes sense. Now that you mention it.
A simple affirmation. His face was a mixture of resignation and a forlorn longing. He thought for a moment before.
でも言う必要はない。
But you don't have to say anything.
聞きたくないんだ。そういうのは。
I don't want to hear it.
He responded in a mature, subdued voice. His response was clear, rather gallantly so.
そう
I see.
じゃ殺すけど死ぬの怖くないの
I'm still gonna kill you. Aren't you scared of dying?
怖いに決まってる。何より痛そうだ。
Of course I'm scared. It'll probably hurt.
His face turned raw as he objected, to which Aoko frowned. As nonchalant as he could be, he was honest about his feelings.
そりゃ怖いでしょ。私だって怖いと思うし。
Of course, that would be scary. I'd be scared too, you know?
でも悪いわね。我慢して。
Sorry, though. You'll just need to deal with it. Damn. That's wow.
人でなしと罵ってくれて結構よ。今の私は本当にその通りだから。
How did she get to this point? I wonder. It's okay if you call me a monster. That's exactly what I am right now.
そういった意味じゃあんたと同じ。普通の道徳がないのよ。だから必要
Damn.
なら人も殺せる。
Jeez. I guess in that way I'm just like you. I don't have what you would call normal morals. Helps when I need to murder someone. Soujirou's finger twitched in response to a different tone. Damn. As if to say that despite having given up on just about everything, his body could not let those words slide.
人殺しなんて良くないぞ。
Murder is wrong, you know.
分かってるって言ってるでしょ。
We went through this. I know that already. Aoko raised her right hand. The light from the crest illuminated her face. It goes without saying that her expression was unchanged. She was not crying, nor was she smiling. She was a young woman who had excised her feelings. Deal with it was another thing Soujirou could not let slide. Soujirou could read on Aoko's face that she was not herself. She was in pain, and to a degree he had never seen her.
すまない。ちょっといいかな。
Sorry. But I guess I do have something to say.
何？ここまで悲壮感を盛り上げておいて、やっぱり逃げるなんてのは却下よ。
What is it? But don't think you can trick me into letting you go by making me feel bad. Ooh. He unconsciously smiled at Aoko's ruthless counter and breathed a sigh of relief. He had misread the pain he saw in her face. This was the same Aoko. Soujirou laughed out loud in genuine joy, a laugh that most of the people would have taken as an insult.
遺言でも聞いてあげようと思った私が甘かった。
I'm starting to regret letting you say your piece.
っていうか、今の小馬鹿にした笑いがあんたの遺言ってことで OK？
Or should I take that attempt to make fun of me as just that?
いや、そうじゃなくて、あそこにいる人は青崎の友人なのか。
Oh, damn.
No, I'm not laughing at you. I was just wondering if that person over there was a friend of yours, Ozaki.
Out of nowhere, Soujirou pointed behind Aoko.
はあ？
Huh? Aoko thought that it must have been that old, overused distraction technique. This had been a Japanese comedy act. This is the part where she gave him a whack with a paper fan. But after giving it a second thought, she realized Soujirou didn't have the capacity for understanding old or even new tricks.
あんた何言って。
What are you... Perhaps his honest disposition had been to his benefit. Without thinking, Aoko gave into her curiosity and turned gaze toward the direction in which his finger was pointed. And there... Oh, shit! Oh, it's another robot. Something that should not have been there in the maze. Something with a croaking wooden smile. It was the ominous, creepy, uncanny figure of a girl. Puppet? An unusual figure with 2 arms and 2 legs stood silently in the darkness. If only for a moment, its beauty, which was even apparent from afar, dulled the insanity of the current situation. Oh shit. Extend. 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 The utterly unknown threat made Aoko freeze on the spot. A warning, it didn't even occur to her. Humans possess intelligence and knowledge, but when confronted with the unknown, they fail to process what to do, and... Oh shit! She got slammed. A shriek escaped Aoko's mouth. The magical attack crossed the 30-foot gap in an instant. The arm of the girl who had appeared at the rear of the corridor was slender and quick, extended to a near impossible length, striking Aoko from behind. Aoko crashed into the wall as she fought back an anguished whimper. The attacker retracted her arm.
Ozaki!
Ozaki!
Soujirou sprang to his feet. There's our cannon fodder. Is he going to awaken to his power? I bet he is. He darted to her side and used all the strength he could muster to get her to her feet. Damn. He could not believe how light she was. In Soujirou's mind, Aoko was an extraordinary individual. Wow, what a meeting. She was about to kill him. Jeez. Oh my god. He expected that if he were to ever touch her, it would be apparent she was far stronger than he. But in reality, she felt about as heavy as you would expect a 100-pound girl to feel. Meanwhile, that thing continued to reel in its arm, as for some sort of mechanism. Having ascended more than 30 feet from the elbow joint, it clanked as it returned to its previous shape and size.
Are you okay?
やめてよ。わからないわ。なんでそんな顔できるの？
Are you for real? How can you even look at me like that right now? Aoko tore her hand away from Soujirou's. Suddenly she felt her knees buckle from under her, but Soujirou caught her before she could hit the ground and help her to her feet.
無理するな。で、あいつは知り合いか？
Don't push yourself too hard. So, do you know this thing?
He looked back at the eerie shadow 30 feet away, as if finished retracting its arm.
そうね。似たようなやつとは命をせめぎ合ってなかよ。
Yeah, I fought one of its friends a while back. Aoko grabbed her lower back as she answered. A searing pain shot through her.
でも、痛いっちゃ痛いけど、打撲だけ。
It's just a bruise. How could it hurt this much?
あれだけ絶好の奇襲をしておいて。それとも、この距離じゃ当たっても致命傷にならない。
It could have killed me, catching me off guard like that. Or maybe it can't kill me from that distance?
なんて、あるわけないか。何か別の意味があると見るべきね。
No, that can't be it. I must be missing something. Aoko tried to steady her breathing as she assessed the damage done to her back. The pain was quick to fade, and her breathing returned to normal. For the time being, her motor functions were no longer hindered, which meant the real damage was elsewhere.
青崎、あれ。
Ozaki, you're...
分かってるわ。黙ってて。
I know, just shut up already! Blue light glowed across the room, across the gloom. The magical energy generated by her breathing was accumulating in her right arm. The if magical energy was the fuel, the formula was the igniter. For Aoko, this was a little more than a reenactment of 2 evenings ago. Next time the puppet extended its arm, Aoko would fire a magical bullet as fast as she could. A battle at approximately 30 feet. As long as Aoko could secure a 2-second window, she could create a counterattack to end their duel. It made its move. With its head tilted down, there was no expression to be seen, and in the darkness, its apparent age was impossible to make out. To the 2 humans, the puppet was not dissimilar to a faceless ghost. Its left arm slowly came up with a grinding sound. Its movements were dull, as if the joints were rusty. The right arm, which had been extended earlier, hung at its side. Though the puppet's mouth was hidden by its long locks, the sense was that it was smiling.
さっきと用途が違う。あれが本命。
It's changing it up. It's attacking from the left!
しずきくん、どいて。
Move it, Suzuki! She threw herself into Soujirou and extended her hand. Its arm extended at that very moment. Yeah, wow, she just protected him. The timing was impeccable. In a single second, Aoko's snap bullet scored a direct hit on the puppet's arm, throwing off its trajectory and sending it crashing into the puppet's body with a violent explosion. Or at least that is what would have happened had the magic formula been invoked. Uh-oh. Oh no! Huh? She barely avoided being struck once again. When her magecraft failed her, intuition took over, and she just managed to get away.
やられた。最初のはそういうことか。
She got me. She knew what I was gonna do! She clenched her teeth in frustration, her thoughts racing a mile a minute. Alice saw welcome to the stream. Fight or flight? It only had one arm left, which would take time to retract. This was the best shot Aoko had at defeating it. She could evade the right arm just a fraction. She could get close enough to...
Vivo insum, solitaire reputres cum feris. Ictius meus obitus dies, et meus nativus dies. Te obeam.
Damn. Vivo insomnio. Solitaire putres cum internis. It des meus obitus dies, et meus nativus dies. Te obeam. A crackle echoed through the corridor. The poetic murmurs contained enough magical energy for a mage to perceive. The verse itself was Latin, but it contained hints of the language of curses, Gander. Originally, their words meant to curse a hated adversary. However,
Mea animae mortalis, otem me futura negata sunt. Manes sum, animam definire ambiguum est. Te odi et te amo. Conveniamus insomnio ipso.
mea anima immortalis, autem mea futura necata sunt, manes sum, animam definire ambiguum est. Te odi et te amo, conveniamus insomnio ipso. Hilarious S1. The puppet was directing the words at itself. Curses begat curses. The victim calls down a curse on the assailant, creating a vicious cycle of negativity. The incantation was meant to do just that. However, this was ultimately a one-puppet show, an unprecedented source of power akin to auto-intoxication. As unbelievable as it seemed, cycle of curses had been turned into a perpetual motion device.
何それ、レベル高すぎじゃない。
You've gotta be kidding me! Isn't this overkill? Aoko abandoned the idea of digging her heels in. Hilarious, hilarious, Spheromancer. Hilarious. It was time to flee with all due haste.
何してんの？あんたも来る。
What do you think you're doing? Come on! She grabbed Sojirou's hand and ran as fast as she could, deeper into the realm of mirrors. The crackling voice continued its murmuring behind them.
Proximi mich negligentes ferunt, omnes nos peccantes fuims, et omnes nos edem fuims, omnes nos peccatores suns. Venit domum meum, lut simile somnium, et pulvere simile quotidianum, cor prego.
Proximi mich negligentes ferunt, omnes nos peccantes fuimus, et omnes nos edem fuimus, omnes nos peccatores sumus. Venite domum meum, luto simile somnium, et pulvere simile quotidianum, cor prego.
Te judico.
Te judico. Death be upon you. Dang. Aoko fought against the pain in her back as she ran through the mirrored corridor. She dragged Soujirou by the hand.
Aozaki, 傷は
This one seems a lot stronger than the previous ones.
Ozaki, are you okay?
別に背骨がしびれてる程度よ。内臓は平気だし、出血もないみたい。
My spine is numb, but it could be worse. My internal organs seem fine, and I don't think I'm bleeding internally. I imagine it's that this one is being remotely piloted, as opposed to set on autopilot. She cursed inwardly at how much of a mess she felt, though. Unlike Soujirou, Aoko did not run into any transparent walls. Thanks to not to superior sight, but rather preparation, she'd hammered the layout of the building into her memory.
平気ってわかるのか
You really okay? How can you tell?
そりゃ自分の体だもの。身体管理は基礎中の基礎よ。
Because it's my body. One of the first things a mage learns is how to keep track of your body. I think what's going to happen is, by the end of this, they're going to discover that Soujirou is also a mage, and thus, he doesn't need to... And thus, he wouldn't need to die. Because, like, it's okay if another mage sees them. So that's what I think is going to happen. Like, they're gonna see somehow that Soujirou is also magic, and that he wouldn't need to die because he's also a mage, and it's okay if he sees it. Aoko's matter-of-fact answer contrasted with Soujirou's nervous questioning. The corridor grew shorter with each and every left turn. At first, they were able to advance in a straight line for about 100 feet at a time, but by now, they are forced to turn a corner every 50 feet or so.
あいつはあの夜の
Is that the one from the other night?
多分ね。同じタイプだと思う。貴重なオートマタを惜しげもなく使い捨てるなんて、よっぽどお金持ちなんだろうけど。
Probably the same pattern, at least. Whoever's behind it must be pretty wealthy to be throwing a valuable automaton around like it's a toy. Soujirou furrowed his brows. He was grateful that she was answering his questions, but baffled by the strange words she was using.
青崎ストップもう随分走ったぞ
Hold up, Aozaki. We've been running for a long time.
あいつは曲がり角一つ分向こうだ少し休もう
We're a good corner ahead of it. We can afford to rest a moment.
His words suggested that he was still concerned about her injuries. Aoko shook her head in irritation.
あの距離を狙ってくる相手に通路一つ分のリードは無意味よ。せめて二つ分に行くまで走るの。
Not enough against something with that kind of range. We have to keep running till we're 2 or 3 turns clear at least. Soujirou nodded. With the matter settled, he asked.
なんで俺を連れて行ってるんだ
I was wondering that too.
Why didn't you leave me behind?
逃げられたくないからじゃない、バカ。
Why do you think? So you couldn't get away, idiot. Ah, there's the first baka. Answering curtly, Aoko glared at her naive prey. The two of them headed for the next corridor. Their legs began to slow as they rounded one more. Aoko rubbed her back as she tried to catch her breath. Though Aoko had insisted she was fine, it appeared to have been bravado. Even the usually clueless Soujirou felt the desperation they were in. He stood behind Aoko with his arms folded. While they had a moment, he tried to make sense of everything. First, Aoko had nearly killed him. They were saved at the last possible second. It was by the strange, stretchy woman Aoko had burned to ashes 2 nights prior. He could barely make it out that night, but considered it her because it looked female. The woman's attack wounded Ako's back and forced her to flee. Aoko had taken Soujirou with her, claiming that the reason she did so was to prevent her prey from escaping. In other words,
青崎はまだ諦めてないんだな。
You haven't given up, have you, Azaki?
当たり前よ。あんなやつ、仮に2体と半分始末しても、あんた用の余力は残せるわ。
of course not. You don't have to face 2 of those things. I still have plenty left to take care of the likes of you. Her tone was sharp, but even Soujirou could see that she was struggling to stay confident. The damage to her body was too much to afford her any optimism. Still, the fury in her eyes refused to accept the circumstances.
中がところどころショートしてる。あの右腕は回路を混戦させるジャミングってわけね。
My magic circuits are shorting out like crazy, which means that right arm of hers is supposed to be jamming my spells. Though the proper response would have been for her to tremble in fear, she did nothing but shake her fists in anger. The disruption of formula was only supposed to work on absolute beginners. If it had been her roommate, the arm would have been repelled the instant it hit her, and the attacker's circuits burnt out rather than her own. Attempting to establish a link to the magic circuits of another mage was like presenting your heart on a silver platter. It would be of no use in a battle against a superior mage. And yet, her adversary had been designed to do just that. Coupled with the attacks on areas of Misaki under Aoko's jurisdiction these last few weeks, it was a clear statement from the enemy, who had revealed itself as a fellow mage 2 days ago. In other words, the puppet saw Aoko as no threat at all.
敵ながら正確な判断だこと。
Played right into their hands, huh? While she was still angry, the whirlwind of emotions within her started to fade. Her face was that of a hunter far beyond her years.
なんか俺の時より真剣だな。
You seem to be more concerned about this thing than you were about hunting me.
まあね、あんたの時は遊びが入ってたし。
Well, naturally. I was only playing with you. Soujirou was not sure whether to be happy or sad about that.
わからないことだらけで何を聞いていいかわからないんだけど、一つだけいいか。
This is all so confusing I don't even know where to start. But can I ask just one question?
Aoko didn't respond. Her eyes were focused on the darkness before them. The silence was heavy, and the darkness was like a noose closing in on them. But Soujirou continued in spite of her indifference.
青崎はあいつも殺すのか。
Are you gonna kill her too, Ozaki?
A stillness fell over them. It was as if the gloom was pulling them in. No response. Their breathing was the only sound echoing in the dim corridor. There stood Soujirou, forcing her to confront her sins. And the magician girl who continued to ignore him. They spent a few seconds seemingly frozen in time.
そう
Yes.
それがあなたのキーワードみたいね
She should tell him that it's not alive, that it's a fucking robot. And that's a sticking point for you, isn't it? Aoko whispered in a lifeless tone. Her sigh was tinged with both resignation and contempt.
キ何
A sticky what?
独り言よ忘れて
Nothing. Forget it.
それと言っとくけどあいつは人間じゃないわ
But just so you know, that thing that's following us isn't human.
信じられないだろうけど自分の意志で動く人形なのこの前のも今のやつもね
You might not believe this, but it's a puppet that can move of its own will, just like the one from the other night. Soujirou nodded as he processed the information. Not only did he not doubt her story, but he seemed to have accepted it at face value.
なんか落ち着いてるわねあなた
You're awfully calm.
まさかもう何が何だかわからないからあまり考えないことにしてるだけだ
No way. I have no idea what's going on, so I'm just trying not to think too hard about it.
ただ人形に関しては別にどうということはない
The part about it being a puppet isn't too surprising to me, though.
もしかして他でも自動人形を
What?
見た
Yeah,
ことあるとか
seriously. What? Are you saying you've seen one before?
都会の人形ってああいうものじゃないの
God.
What do you mean? Aren't all puppets in the city like that?
What? She barely stopped herself from falling to her knees. Of course. How could she have forgotten? She was dealing with a bona fide natural-born moron. Alice saw Awoken in the street. As a student who transferred from the isolation of the mountains like an endangered species, his utter lack of common sense rendered anything miraculous as mundane. If automobiles were moving hunks of metal, then moving puppets were nothing to write home about. Wait, that meant... To him, the incident from the other night hadn't been extraordinary at all. He might have even assumed it was an everyday occurrence in the city.
参ったいっぺん頭の中覗いてみたいっていうかほんとここまで来ると感心するわ
I give up. You know, I'd really like to get a good look inside your head someday. I honestly have no idea if you've made it this far in life.
調子が狂うのも当然だった普通は私に襲われた時点でもっと違う反応をするはずなのに
No wonder you're such a weirdo. Normally people wouldn't react the way you did when I attacked you.
化け物とかお化けとかさでもあなたにとってはそういうこともあるで済まされてたわけなんだ
I could have been a monster or a ghost. But for you, it was just another new fact of life.
なんかバカみたいね私
I'm starting to feel like the real moron here. Her strained face returned to normal for a moment. It hit her. It hit her. There had been another way to handle this without anyone getting hurt. But the damage had already been done. There were no do-overs in life, nor should there be. Her own mistake and assumptions had sent that situation spiraling out of control. But now that Soujirou was involved, she had to make sure that her secret was safe with him. Even if there had been another better option, that ship had sailed. Human relationships were ultimately driven by mutual misunderstandings. They were like tapestries, woven from mismatched intentions. Break time was over. There stood Aoko and Soujirou Suzuki. Their first ever idle conversation had come to an end. Not that they had a choice in the matter. It was a jarring murmuring from around the corner that cut it short.
Nemo mefnus meminit, vedroit extens est. Initio eraberamos dom brevimus dolores sunt. Nemo adiuvat.
Nemo meum funis meminit, qui dolor extensicus est. Initio eraveramus. Dum vivimus dolorus sunt. Nemo adiuvat. The enemy was just around the corner, visible in the mirrors parallel to it.
悠長に話してる場合じゃないわね。とにかく今は距離を。
We don't have time for this. We need to keep our Huh? Oh shit. Bouncing. In contrast to Aoko's elegant blues, its lights were a malicious red.
感動打ち。
Gander shots! I knew, I thought that something would happen. It would bounce off mirrors. There was a momentary flash of light before she even extended her arm. To the instant she saw the enemy, her dormant feelings erupted once more.
さっきから邪魔なのよ。
You're a real pain in the ass! Shield! She channeled all her pent-up anger and shunted it into her right arm. The fog that filled the corridor was no magical weaving, but rather a barrier of raw energy. It's equivalent to setting ablaze 3 buckets of gasoline to create a wall of fire, in hopes that it would stop an arrow in flight. If the puppet had attacked it with its arm, it could have pierced such a wall easily. But because it had loose curses with no definite form, the wall of energy repelled the attack, yet only useful against energy attacks. While it was a huge waste of magical energy, it was the only means Aoko had to protect herself at that very moment. Unfortunately, the protection was reserved for Aoko alone. Soujirou held his hand to his mouth. Uh-oh. While the curse had been weakened to the point where Aoko could no longer feel it, plenty of effect on Soujirou, who was not a mage. As if it had understood this fact, the puppet turned his gaze from Aoko to the unanticipated human behind her.
こいつは関係ないでしょ。
This has nothing to do with him! She has changed her tune on him really quick. Enraged, she swung her arm forward once again. The blue light formed a wall to block the gander for a scant few seconds. It was enough of an opening to exploit. Just as Aoko was forming the wall, the puppet pointed its right arm at her face and...
関係あるみたいだから逃げるぞ。
This apparently does have something to do with me. Time to run.
I do wonder if the puppet is actually after Soujirou for some reason. If it came here for Soujirou instead of Aoko. before the rocket of death could be fired, Soujirou scooped her up into his arms. How he mustered the strength to do so was a mystery, but he turned his back on the puppet and took off running. He was a nimble sprinter, resembling a deer leaping across obstacles. Soujirou rounded two more corners, ignored whatever complaints Aoko was making, and eventually stopped in the middle of the second floor. He set her down.
よし、ここまで来れば少しは休めるな。
Alright. I bought us enough time to rest a bit.
Soujirou's shoulders heaved as he caught his breath. As light as she was, running while carrying someone else would make anyone winded. She looked up at him with incomprehension.
こんな体力あったのに、なんで?
You had that much stamina all along? Then why? It made no sense to her. If he had the stamina to pick her up and run, surely he could have stood up and escaped when he had been downed earlier.
ああ、あの時は諦めてたから。
Oh. At that time I had given up.
His words were unfiltered as ever. Though right then, fighting for their lives, he lacked some of his usual absent-mindedness.
諦めてたって。
But why?
さあ、忘れた、そんなことは。
Wait, what?
Who knows? I've forgotten already.
Though he may have turned away because he regretted saying it out loud, his words spoke volumes. For some reason, it pained Aoko to see him like that.
それより青崎、唐突に気分が悪いんだが。
Oh, he's awakening to some power. I bet.
Also, Azaki, I'm suddenly feeling really ill.
あの赤い光も、その。
Was it that red light?
ええ、魔術の類よ。岩洞打ちって言ってね。北欧の呪詛の一つ。魔術回路のある私には効かないけど、抵抗のないあなたには効果てきめんみたいね。
Yes, a form of magecraft. They're called gander shots. A curse that originated in Scandinavia. It has no effect on someone with magic circuits like myself, but you're defenseless against it.
なんだ、青崎には効かないのか。じゃあ、危ないのはあの腕だけだな。
Ah, they're gonna do 1-2 punch.
I see. It doesn't work on you. And that arm is the only thing that poses a threat.
Aoko had no idea why he was relieved, but she gritted her teeth and fought down the urge to snap at him. There was no use in yelling at a time like this. Above all, she felt that it would have been petty in the extreme to voice her annoyance right now.
そうね。注意するのは伸ばしてくる腕だけ。大した相手じゃないわ、やっぱり。
You're right. The extending arm is the only thing I have to worry about, so it's not that tough after all. This time it was not false bravado. Such an enemy would normally be a breeze for Aoko Azaki, but her shameful negligence had led to disruption of her magic circuits, make her even less formidable than her enemy. At this point, Aoko had no way of attacking. The only option left was for her to wait to expend all its magical energy, but its perpetual curse mechanism made that a non-starter. The game of tag would not end until one of them was dead. She realized that she was in the same position she had cornered Soujirou in earlier. She glanced at her right arm. She could not imagine how she had gotten into such a mess with her magical energy at more than half of its capacity. That had to be karma for having enjoyed toying with Soujirou earlier.
呆れた。いるところにはいるものね、神様って。
Maybe there is a god after all. I mean, there's magic, so probably at least one. She grumbled under her breath as she shifted her focus. She had the fuel for the fire, but not the igniter. And the killing machine would chase her until the end of time if need be. What she should do next was blindingly clear. She had to get back to normal.
Aozaki.
Ozaki?
ごめん、考え事してた。
Sorry. I was thinking.
確か。よし、合ってる。しずきくん、そこに横道あるのわかる？
Maybe that could... Okay, Suzuki, I've got it. You see that side passage over there?
Huh?
Aoko pointed. We could see nothing but the walls of the corridor. For one thing, the floor had nothing but left turns, and Aoko was pointing to the right.
2階は中心まで行くと1階に降りる階段があるんだけど、それは私が壊したから使えないの。
At the center of the second floor is a stairway down to the first, which I destroyed earlier so you couldn't use it.
けど、ここの作りも意地が悪くてね。よく見れば、右に曲がる通路もあるのよ。上級者だけにわかる抜け道ってやつ。
But there's another path that leads to the right, like this place is taunting you by design. It's a secret shortcut that only the hardcore fans know about.
あとは注意して探せば、1階の階段までショートカットできる。悪いけど、一人で行って。
If you search carefully, you can find a way to the stairs down to the first floor. Now do as I say and go on without me. Aoko turned her back to Soujirou and started walking. Walking in the opposite direction of the escape route and down the long corridor to the puppet in pursuit.
あいつは無差別だから、ここで壊さないといけない。魔術師は魔術師同士で争うのはいいんだけど、みだりに一般人に手を出しちゃいけないって決まりがあるの。
That thing will kill anyone it sees, so I have to destroy it here and now. It's okay for two mages to fight each other, but dragging normal people into the conflict is strictly forbidden.
あいつの目的は私のわけだし、結果がどうあれ、すっきりするでしょ。
I'm the target, so this is the best outcome for everyone, don't you think? If Aoko won, the puppet would be destroyed. If Aoko lost, his objective would be complete and it would shut down. Either way, them going their separate ways would mean that Soujirou survived. This is what Aoko meant. Though she explained as if the events were happening to two totally different people.
運が良ければ入り口までたどり着けるわ。
If you're lucky enough, you'll make it back to the gate in one piece.
それじゃあ、また明日ね。
So, see you tomorrow then. Damn. Even Soujirou could tell she was just trying to act tough. But she had already disappeared around the corner by the time he thought to stop her. Well then. Mentally, Aoko bemoaned the disaster she was in. The quality of this puppet was on a completely different level compared to the one from the park 2 days ago, clearly, yeah. An auto-incanting perpetual motion machine was a rarity in and of itself. But this puppet was also equipped for battle, with the extending arm and gander projecting crystalline eyes. It was a first-class product that, if put on the market, would sell for hundreds of millions of yen. Although, that was only when factoring in its value as an antique. For the purposes of combat, it would have made more sense to mobilize a significantly less expensive familiar. To use such a precious commodity as a tool for murder marked this puppet's master as a completely different breed of crazy from the enemies she had faced up until now. Oh dang.
ウェボインソン solitare putris cuniferis. Ictius meus obitus dies, et meus natibus dies, Theobeum.
Vivio insomnio, solitaire putresque in infernis, ictes mus obitus dies, et meus nativus dies, Theobeum.
来たわね。
Here it comes! A sound of crackling music box filled the air. The automata, animated by its own curses, approached. The corridor measured approximately 30 feet in length. Aoko lay in wait around a corner further down the hall, anticipating the puppet's appearance. This was not to buy Soujirou time to escape, far from it. Aoko concluded that she couldn't make a break for it under the current circumstances. Even if she did try to escape and by some miracle made it out of the House of Mirrors, this was as far as she would go. Outside with no cover, Aoko would quickly be overtaken and skewered from behind. As long as her magecraft was disabled, escape was impossible. Instead, she chose to force the enemy back. Her situation was not the most favorable, but neither was the puppet's. Though this narrow hall gave Aoko no place to run, it in turn prevented the puppet from reaching full speed. That was the weak point of this machine. Automata of its era had a tendency to struggle with minute changes in speed.
セット。
Connecting. She flowed energy into her shorted circuits. Her blood flowed and magical energy supplies were unstable. It'd be difficult to construct a formula in this state. All she could do was harden her right arm by imbuing it with as much energy as she could. Doing so turned her arm into an improvised weapon, like a hammer or a bat. Assuming she could manage to get into close combat range, it was the best she could do. All she needed now was a plan of attack. Question wasn't what weapon to use, but how to use the weapon she had. Yeah, I was wondering about that. Why did the voice say set, but the text said connecting? That doesn't make any sense. Why is that? The simplest way to use the mirror's reflections to hide and then rush the puppet from its blind spot. Except for one major problem. It didn't have a sense of sight in the first place. The puppet's view of the world around it did not stem from visual feedback, but from mapping the topography of its surroundings. In theory, it was the same as a bat's echolocation. The environment could be measured based on the emission and return of high-frequency sound waves. Those chants served as sensor pulses. As far as the puppet was concerned, the mirrors were no better than transparent panes, making even the thought of an ambush laughable.
近づけば近づくほどよりリアルに察知される。本当は遠距離からの狙撃が最適なんだけど、ガンドを撃ってくるならフィンの一撃ぐらい隠してるわよね。
The closer it gets, the more it's able to sense me. I'd really rather fight at a distance, but if it's shooting Gander, probably got at least fin shot up its sleeve too. Gander was Scandinavian in origin, and considering its simplicity, highly versatile. It was most effective at impairing a target's health by pointing a finger. As a single action magecraft, it was limited to only causing illness. But there was a secret technique said to be the greatest mastery of the Gander shot. The Fin shot. It could do more than just cause simple illness. It was a deadly curse that could stop the heart. Damn. The wound on her back set her nerves on fire. An unarmed girl and a deadly automaton. It was clear that she was the one destined for death. She considered her slim chance of survival when... Ooh, what the fuck is that? It's like Red Hood. A vision sent chills down her spine. Quietly, using everything she could to tamp down the feeling, Aoko faced her all too familiar illusion. She clenched her teeth to keep them from making a deafening clatter. But there, the sensation of fingers crawling up her neck. Behind her, the specter stared and laughed. This alone made Aoko want to bolt. On top of it all, when Aoko tried to mentally simulate the coming fight, she estimated a 2 in 10 chance of dying in the first 5 seconds. Damn. 20%. At times, her predictions were harsher than reality. If Aoko fought the puppet 10 times, she would die twice. She could not stop herself from visualizing her own corpse. Oh, 20% chance of failure. She imagined herself collapsing, crumpling under the puppet's curse. Her eyeballs swole like a blowfish, blood and other fluids oozing from every bodily orifice. 1 in 5, 1 in 5, 1 in 5. 1 in 10 chance of death was bad enough, but 1 in 5? It drove her crazy. But Aoko forced down her heart as it tried to escape from her mouth. Taking in a deep breath, she peered at her own reflection. She saw it back to that white night, half a year ago. Then this, she decided, was nothing compared to that. Ooh, what went on there? 6 months ago at the Kwanji estate, the Hound of White Roses, the wander snatch that appeared from within the thick fog, had killed Aoko 100 times out of 10. What?
Mehr animam brutalis, otem me futura necada sunt. Manes sum, animam definire ambiguum est.
Mea anima immortalis, otem mea futura necanta sunt. Manes sum, animam definire ambiguum est. A dark curse shattered Aoko's daydream. It was only 30 feet away. A puppet rounded the corner. Other stars stood in the shadows, their forms indistinct. The puppet gave no warning. Without preamble, it swiftly fired a Gander barrage. Just as Aoko planned, the curses fizzled out as they hit her mist-like barrier of magical energy. The protection would only last a few seconds, giving her just enough time to... Come on! Its stretchable spear sprang toward Aoko's face. Shit! Bingo! The lethal weapon grazed her cheek. All her experience analyzing puppet attack patterns gave her the wherewithal to evade the attack by a hair's breadth. It was one thing if a puppeteer were pulling the strings, but autonomous dolls had their limitations. Aoko had bet everything on this killing machine following a predefined template. The puppet used a given attack for a given range. She could adjust her tactics to that. Now's my chance! Before its arm had a chance to fully retract, she charged at the puppet. It was a risky gamble, but her overall chances were slim to begin with. The scales tipped in her favor. If her predictions were correct, there were 2 ways she would die. One was from fin shot fired at that range. And the other was if the puppet's attack pattern was beyond her ability to foresee. Instantaneous mass transfer, otherwise known as mass displacement. So teleporting? Immediately after Aoko dodged the puppet's arm, something smashed into her abdomen. Damn! Oof! The head-on collision from his shoulder felt like a rocket. But where did the ability to propel itself come from? Puppets like this were not built to have the ability to jet around like that. Doing everything in her power to stay conscious in spite of the pain, Aoko could just make out what had happened.
推進力じゃなくて牽引力
It wasn't propelled, it was pulled! Yes, the puppet's arm had not returned to its body. It was lodged in the wall and reeled itself in from the other direction. Oh, snaps. What the fuck hookshot bullshit is this?
そんなのありか
It couldn't do that! Swallowing her surprise, she hastily pulled herself back up. Her abdomen, specifically her diaphragm, had been dealt a significant blow. The attack left her disoriented. Thankfully, the puppet was surprisingly lightweight. Her bones and organs were intact, and she sustained no life-threatening damage. She was having a hard time breathing, however. She was shaken, though she managed to keep her calm. In another 2 seconds, she'd be back on her feet. No, that was 2 seconds ago. Too long. She told herself to calm down. She was already calm. She only briefly lost her bearings. She was fine. She would recover her breath and her vision later if only her body would move.
Intellectus non necessaris est, piusque escat. Nostro ablat fit. Ratio fix tantum est. Dolores initium cerebrum fit.
Intellectus non necessarius est, piusque escat. Nostro ablat fit. Ratio fixa tantum est. Dolores initium cerebrum fit. Above her, Aoko could hear the warped noise of a powerful force.
走れ動けでもどっちに行けば
Come on, legs, move! We gotta get to where? Oh shit. She could once more feel the touch of death.
Vis salvati, vis salvati.
Soujirou?
Vis salvati.
Grant us salvation. Grant us salvation. Grant us salvation. The puppet was so close that Aoko could reach out and touch it. It also meant that it could reach out and kill Aoko.
こいつの右腕の死角に入れる
I need to get my right arm into its blind spot. By intuition alone, Aoko rolled over to the puppet's right flank. Its arm was still embedded within the wall. From here, it could not attack. She had made the right decision, and her dizziness faded.
Intellectus non necessaris est, piusque escat. Nostro ablat fit. Ratio fix tantum est. Dolores initium cerebrum fit.
Intellectus non necessarius est, piusque esat. Nostra essentia ablata fuit. Ratio fixia tantum est. Dolores initium cerebrum fuit. Aoko pulled herself back up. It was her turn. What? Damn. It looked a lot like her. It was only an instant. Within the labyrinth of mirrors, she saw an image of herself.
Vis salvati.
We die. A blinding, brilliant light flashed. Did it blow up? Lacerations appeared across the walls. At the last moment, Aoko managed to thicken the magical energy running through her veins into a primitive form of magecraft resistance. It just barely saved her life from what must have been the puppet's ace in the hole. Why, you! The puppet bore a striking resemblance to Aoko. This powerful curse was not satisfied with stopping Aoko's heart, but destroying her entire being. Aoko did not even have the time to be shocked. This was their chance for a counterattack. The puppet's balance was unsteady, its right arm still embedded in the wall. Aoko prepared to give his defenseless body a strong kick. Her knees buckled and she collapsed into a heap on the floor.
Vevo insomni, solitare putres cuniferis. Ictius meus obitus dies, et meus natibus dies. Teo beam.
Vivi insomnio, saliter putuesco in infernus. Ictius meus obitus dies, et meus natibus dies. Teo beam. A sudden nausea and lightheadedness overcame Aoko. Her body temperature began to rapidly lower. This whole time, it was spreading its curses the whole time! She noticed too late. The puppet's curses circled the hall. The cursed chant that the puppet used as a source of power doubles the defense mechanism, crippling those who drew near with illness. She bore the full brunt the entire time she was in close proximity to it. Although Aoko had magic circuits, she was succumbing just as Soujirou had. Languidly, she forced a deteriorating body to jump back. I'm not done yet! With all the energy she could muster, she forced her way past the exhaustion caused by this curse. However, Aoko's blood pressure took a steep nosedive. Not from the curse-induced amnesia, or from what appeared in front of her. They stood in perfect harmony. In front of Aoko was the automata that shared her face, its left arm held out like an arrow. The deadly weapon shot forward and homed in on her heart. Then, a moment before it made contact...
Watch out!
The moment she heard that fearless voice, completely out of place in the storm of violence, Aoko's body was pulled forcefully to one side. Once again, the extending arm cut through empty air. While the puppet quickly retracted its left arm, Soujirou took the brief opportunity to take Aoko by the hand and flee at full speed. I knew he would come back. Soujirou ran for the corridor as fast as he could, only stopping when he had put enough distance between them and the puppet. I knew he would come back. Are we gonna get like a Bleach first episode type thing? It feels like this is gonna head up to him awakening something.
I was thinking, and
though he had saved her, she looked angry rather than grateful. This did not keep Soujirou from saying his piece.
明日はどうも忙しいみたいなんだ。
tomorrow is going to be a really busy day for me, so...
In other words, let's finish this today. A rather awkward proposal. Aoko remained silent. She was also rather angry. Not that she could figure out what made him tick, nor because he returned after escaping. Not even because he was spouting his typically airheaded lines. It was, she supposed, that instant. The fact that when he grabbed her hand, her mind had gone completely blank. Aoko found it unforgivable. Which beckoned the response.
あなた、正気?
Are you insane? Yeah, she just can't comprehend why he would try to save her. In the heat of the moment, she blurted it before she could stop herself.
それとも自殺願望でもあったわけ。私もあいつもあんたなんか殺す対象に過ぎないのよ。
Or maybe you've got a death wish. Don't you realize that either of us could kill you with a snap of a finger?
少なくとも恩を売る相手じゃない。
At the very least, I don't know you a damn thing.
言っとくけど、私助けられたぐらいで曲がる信念は持ち合わせていないから。
Saving my life doesn't change a thing between us. Soujirou nodded, clearly unperturbed.
青崎がそんな可愛らしいもんじゃないのはこの夜だけで骨身に染みてるよ。
Damn, what the? Jeez.
Don't worry, Ozaki. If tonight taught me anything, it's that you're more ruthless than that.
She found herself slightly offended.
けど君は勘違いをしてるから少し正そう。
But I think you need to get one thing straight.
あいつの狙いは青崎だけじゃない。君だけじゃなく、俺も殺す気だと思う。
I knew it.
That thing isn't just trying to kill you. I think it's trying to kill me as well.
She was having none of it. Her eyes shot daggers his way.
話は最後まで聞く。どうしてかっていうと、1階の入り口あるだろ？あの細長い通路。
And before you chew me out, you need to know something. Do you remember that first floor entrance at the end of that long corridor?
なんでかあそこから先に進めないんだ。逃げたくても逃げ出せなくて、仕方なく戻ってきた。
Well, it's blocked. I tried my best to find a way out, but no luck. There was no choice but to turn right back.
Aoko's eyes widened ever so slightly in amazement. She felt admiration rather than shock that her enemy would go to such lengths.
それに、さっきので完全に敵扱いされた。あの人形、こっちをじろっと睨んできたし。
And besides, it was hostile to me too earlier. I could tell by it was glaring at me.
いや、一瞬でよく見えなかったけど、生きた心地しなかったな。青崎も気をつけた方がいい。多分よっぽど怖い顔をしているに違いないぞ。あれ。
If the other exit was also blocked off, then whoever did this knew that they would be coming here. Huh. And blocked off the other one.
Well, it happened so fast that I didn't really get a good look at it. But it was really unsettling. You should be careful. That thing, she sure has a terrifying face.
Oh my god, it's Aoko's face.
それはご親切にどうも。
Gee, thanks.
なんでこれはもう他人事じゃないんだ。
You bet. I mean, I can't pretend like this isn't happening to me.
青崎と人形。結論として、どっちが勝っても俺は殺されてしまうんじゃないか？
Whichever of you wins. I'm a dead man either way, right?
そうね。そこまでやってるなら、目撃者は消すでしょうね。私みたいに。
I can't argue with that. If it's willing to go as far as to seal off the entrance, then it'd probably kill any witnesses as well. At least that's what I'd do.
だろ？でも、俺はあいつには殺されたくない。
Damn!
Right? And I don't want her to be the one who kills me.
This guy, Soujirou! How are you so wholesome and so fucked up at the same time? Wait, what? His words were decisive. As Aoko looked at him, she could swear he was trying to encourage her. It was then that she realized Soujirou was looking even worse than before.
ちょっと待って。大丈夫なのあなた。
Hey, are you okay?
まあ、醤油を一升瓶飲むよりはマシではないかと。
Well, I'm better than if I drunk an entire bottle of soy sauce.
He tried to make light of the situation, but his forehead was clearly drenched in sweat.
そうか。さっき人形に近づいたから。
Right. It's because he was close to the puppet just now. How could he possibly be able to withstand a curse that made even Aoko nauseous? She bit her lip, annoyed herself for not noticing this earlier. Soujirou was such an airhead that she hasn't even paused to consider his plight.
下で隠れていようとか思わなかったの？その方がどう考えても安全でしょ？
Why didn't you consider trying to hide down in the basement? That would have been the safest bet, wouldn't it? She really could not understand him at all.
それは青崎が言うセリフじゃないな。
You should really take your own advice sometimes, Aozaki.
でもまあ、長話をしている時間もない。そろそろ追いついてくる頃だ。
But hey, this is no time to be chatting. She could catch up at any moment.
He turned to look down the corridor. The crackling sounds of a music box appeared creeping forth from the darkness.
さっき1階にいて考えたんだ。君がやられても俺は殺される。なら、まず奴をどうにかするべきだ。
I was thinking about this while I was on the first floor earlier. If it kills you, I'm next. That's why we should deal with it first.
あなた、何が言いたいの？
What are you getting at? She asked a question to which she already knew the answer. She had to put him to the test. If he wavered even a little, she would have killed him where he stood.
提案。あいつをやっつけるのに協力したら、俺のことを見逃してくれる？
Ooh.
My proposal is if I agree to help you kill that thing, will you let me go?
助けられたぐらいじゃ信念は曲げないって言ったでしょ？
I thought I'd made it clear that helping me wasn't going to change my mind.
それに、あなたに何ができるっていうの？
And besides, what do you think you're going to do to it anyway?
それは青崎が考えてくれ。得意だろ、そういうの。
Oh, that's your end of the bargain, Aozaki. It is your area of expertise, right?
The commander out of the overall picture was responsible for delegating roles to their teammates. It was futile to depend on someone who was unable to grasp the situation or evaluate the enemy's strength. Soujirou was proud to share that he knew this. He spoke the truth. Aoko was the only one who knew both Soujirou and the automata. That was why he pointed out that following her orders to the best of his ability was the only thing he could do. It may have seemed as though Soujirou had surrendered his capacity for self-thought, but in accepting that he was helpless, he was in fact giving Aoko his complete trust.
じゃあ、私の指示に 100% 従うってこと？
Fine then. So you'll do exactly what I tell you to do?
ああ。それに、これは恩とか義理の話じゃない。
I will. And just so you know, I'm not doing this out of a sense of obligation or anything.
一人だと分が悪いから二人でかかるだけだ。善意でも好意でもない。取引って言わないか、こういうの。
It's just obvious that neither of us has a chance on our own. This isn't goodwill or kindness. It's a transaction.
His eyes sparkled, as if this was bartering in its truest form.
まったく。
Oh my god. This child must have learned that from Toby Maru, Aoko thought. Though she refused to let him see it, she smiled inwardly. Sure, he had gotten the best of her just now, but there were times when defeat was not the worst outcome in the world.
労働と報酬ってわけね。それなら理にかなってる。
Honest pay for honest work. Makes sense.
言いたくないけど、
And I hate to admit it, but... She relaxed her shoulders and sighed. Her face cracked into a wicked grin, as if her fears suddenly washed away.
それ、結構私の好みよ。
Your plan is just my style. Aoko repaid Sojirou's trust in equal measure.
結構きついかもね。あなたの役目。
Just so you know, this is gonna be pretty tough for you. Aoko warned Soujirou, moving as fast as she could without her footfalls causing a din of noise. Soujirou remained near the center of the spiral maze, on the second floor.
実を言うと、もう一つ用意しておいた仕掛けがあるの。
I'll let you in on a secret. I have another trap up my sleeve.
自分でもやりすぎだって呆れたもんだけど、あなたがここに来るのが遅かったから、ちょっと興に乗っちゃって。
I think I might have gone overboard with this one. But when you didn't show up on time, I just couldn't help myself.
お仕掛けって俺用の？
A trap? For me?
Soujirou tilted his head like a squirrel, as Aoko freely discussed the final ace up her sleeve.
地下の柱に着火型のちょっとした魔術式を刻んでおいたの。
Oh, damn.
中心の柱に点火することで、連鎖的に他の柱に仕掛けた魔術も起動する。
She set some C4. My god. She magic C4. Oh my god. She's gonna bring the house down. I engraved an ignition formula into the support pillars in the basement. If I ignite the central pillar, it'll start a chain reaction that'll ignite the rest.
ジャミングを食らう前に作ったものだから、直接魔力を叩き込めば一気にこういくわ。
I made it before that thing started jamming me. So if I infuse it with a bit of magical energy, it'll go boom.
うん。
Soujirou was a little unsettled by how unclear that last bit was.
青崎、こうじゃわからない。できるだけ明確にどこまで爆破する気だったのか白状してくれ。
Aozaki, could you, clarify? I want to know how much you're going to blow me up. Please be honest.
あと、もしかして俺、早まったか？
Also, did I make a mistake agreeing to team up with you?
いや、その単なる保険っていうか。
Don't be silly. It was just an insurance policy. Yeah.
追いかけっこの途中であんたを見失ったら、いっそ建物ごと爆破しちゃおうかなって。
I just thought that if I lost sight of you at any point, I could blow the whole building and you with it. It was her policy to be thorough to a fault, after all. She laughed, embarrassed to hear herself say it aloud.
いくらなんでも徹底しすぎてる。
Don't you think that's overkill?
Faced with Azuko's cruelty, Soujirou forgot about the situation at hand and protested from the bottom of his heart.
何よ、いいじゃない。そのおかげでなんとかなりそうなんだから。
Stop complaining. At least now we have a way to fight back. She shot back. Aoko dashed toward the corridor, mumbling things that probably would have sent Soujirou packing if he heard them. The strategy was simple. Aoko would use the escape route to the right and avoid the puppet, making her way down to the basement. Upon reaching the central pillar, she would infuse the formula she had prepared with magical energy and escape. Once ignited, it would take about a minute for the chain reaction to spread throughout the whole house of mirrors, and another minute for the building to collapse. She would be cutting it a little close, but because she had committed the maze to memory, she was sure she could make it out in time. Aoko assumed that the chain reaction caused by the pillar would clear the barrier that the puppet had placed at the entrance. And even if it was strong enough to withstand the blast, it would not be able to stay standing once the foundation buckled. Soldier's escape was assured as long as the formula in the basement was activated. Next came the most important part. The automaton was at a disadvantage in the obstacle-laden house of mirrors, and was unable to move at full speed. If it was near the center of the second floor and the building collapsed, it would be caught up and crushed by it. So the problem was keeping the puppet on the second floor until Aoko could make it down to the basement.
当てにしたからね、しずきくん。せめて3分ぐらいは引きつけて。
I'm counting on you, Suzuki. I just need you to keep it occupied for 3 minutes. Ideally, he'd be able to keep it busy until she could activate the formula. If that failed to work, him lowering it down to the first floor would be the next best thing. She understood perfectly well the danger she was putting Soujirou in, but his lucky streak and running speed were nothing to scoff at.
ただ逃げるだけなら、もしかしてとんでもないことをしてくれるかも、あいつ。
As long as all he has to do is run, then maybe, just maybe, he can actually pull this off. Aoko made her way through the hidden passage of the maze, her hopes pinned on Soujirou. Meanwhile, well out of earshot, Soujirou was readying himself for another desperate chase. He calmed his beating heart using a method of his own making. What mattered most was that he remained calm. The plan was simple enough. And Aoko's orders were succinct and easy to understand.
10メートルぐらいの距離を保って、できるだけゆっくり通路を3、4周すること。
Keep a distance of around 30 feet, and weave through the corridors as slowly as you can 3 or 4 times.
横道は鏡のつなぎ目で覚えて。ここなら左回りで6、3、7、2枚目にあるから、そこをぐるぐる回ってれば比較的安全よ。
Count the mirrors as you move to locate the hidden passages. From here, they're in the 6th, 3rd, 7th, and 2nd mirrors counterclockwise. Use those and you should be relatively safe. Damn! It was essentially a looping marathon. As long as Soujirou kept distance difference from the puppet's extended arm to allow her to track him, she could continue to chase him indefinitely. Simple as the task was, Soujirou was putting his life on the line as bait. And then there was the final order to run as fast as he could to the exit, when the building began to sway.
結構じゃなくて、かなりきついんじゃないかな、これは。
This is more than just a little tough.
He nervously stuck his head out from around the corner. You could hear the sound of the music box on the other side of the corridor. First, he had to make eye contact with it, then head through the shortcut on the right and begin their game of tag. He spotted it and braced himself. Closer, closer. Fearing that her arm could fly at him at any moment, he went over Aoko's instructions in his head.
あれ
Wait.
However, he could not quite remember which plane led to the first hidden passage. I knew it! I fucking knew it! The 3rd? The 6th? The 9th? I would do the same thing, honestly.
Aww.
No, he was sure that was mistaken. He was confident he had memorized moments ago, but his nerves had gotten the best of him, and his head was now spinning. Then, Soujirou realized that the sound of his pursuer was beginning to grow distant. An incredible speed. Oh shit! Spider form! Oh, dang. It's weird, some lines are not voiced.
What's it doing now?
The unusual silhouette of the puppet astonished him. Before it had taken the form of a beautiful girl, now it made a bizarre transformation and returned to the first floor to pursue a primary target.
いや、それは
This isn't the plan.
Soujirou was no longer sure what to do. Before he'd even had the time to mourn his failure, the puppet had vanished out of sight. I'll help.
I'll help, so let me go.
It was? I didn't hear it. Or so he had said. But now he could not follow through.
さて、自分はこれからどうしよう。
So, what am I supposed to do now?
Alone, he tilted his head in frustration. He spoke into the darkness as if Aoko would be there to answer him. Meanwhile, downstairs, as soon as she arrived on the first floor, Aoko understood what had transpired above her. Hello, Rotten, welcome to the stream. She did not even have to strain her ears to hear the puppet. Even during its heyday, this attraction never made sounds like the one she heard coming toward her now. It was a sound of despair, as if a horde of monstrous hedgehogs were scraping their way past the mirrors in her direction, rolling around at the speed of sound.
ドジ3分どころか10秒持たないってどういうことよ。
That ditz! 3 minutes? He couldn't even last 10 seconds! Rather than buying her time, Soujirou has instead stolen hers. He had one job, to run away. That was all. She cursed him under her breath.
複数の足音ってことは二足から多脚に切り替えたのね。
Multiple footsteps. So we'll switch from bipedal to multi-leg form? Hilarious S-line. The echoes made it sound like dozens of feet were approaching. Aoko's spine conjured an image of a giant six-legged spider tearing its way down the corridor. It's little wonder they were so much faster than before. Its perception of its surroundings through echolocation was of particular use in the dark. Compared to sight-dependent humans, this automaton was far better equipped to navigate its way through the labyrinth of mirrors. If it could not keep pace earlier, that had been because its bipedal mode made it less maneuverable. Now, its ability provided by multiple legs gave it a speed that far exceeded that of any human.
どうするどうするどうする
What now? What now? What now? Her thoughts spun out as she tried to come up with a plan B. All she knew for sure was that this was a pivotal moment. If she continued standing still, she had seconds left at most. Even in her current state, she knew she could easily neutralize the bounded field, blocking the entrance without casting a spell. All she had to do was feed a little of her own energy into it. Aoko could sprint with all her might for a little more than 3 minutes. The puppet had far more stamina than she did. She could only come up with 3 options. The first was to escape through the exit in front of her. The second was to hide somewhere on the more complicated first floor. And the third was to run into the basement and be stuck like a rat in a trap.
なんだ考えるまでもない。
Well, that's obvious enough. She made her decision with zero hesitation, moving her stiff legs again with determined strength. The oncoming storm was almost upon her. Her resolve firm, she turned and ran, descending into the darkness. No matter what, a finale should be glorious. This would be the Mirror Castle's final scene. 2 humans and a puppet. A young sorceress ran toward the subterranean heart of the castle, while autonomous Antique shakes its prey into the depths of a demonic dungeon. A minute later, a faint blue charge would ripple through the castle. This was the main pillar in the deepest depths of the basement. Though not critical to the castle's structure, the pillar was a visible symbol of it. The girl concentrated her magical energy into a fist and thrust it at the pillar. This was the blow that would bring down the castle. She imagined the destruction as she threw the punch, and that scene blossomed into reality seconds later. It was simple ignition magecraft, meant to release the condensed magical energy engraved into the 4 pillars at the corners of the structure. Using electricity as a switch meant virtually instantaneous activation. We got a time limit. It happened swiftly and elegantly. A hammer of destruction descended upon the castle of dreams that had stubbornly resisted its fate for 2 years. It was almost a joyous sound. And so, the lifeless and abandoned castle of mirrors set the stage for its final and most spectacular performance. Aoko's magical energy became an electrical charge that activated the magecraft formula engraved into the pillar. The chain reaction would lead to the castle's destruction.
ご苦労様。
You served your purpose.
でも、思ってたよりくたびれてたのね。
But it must have been
持
rough.
つかどうか。
Goddamn pauses. Looks like you're gonna collapse any time now. The plaza in the center of the basement. Aoko tried to steady her breathing while rotating her magic crest at full speed. She wreathed her arms in a blue light, fully aware that she could no longer activate another formula. Her labored breathing refused to settle. She stood at the center of the basement. Without being spotted even once, she managed to make it all the way to the central pillar. It was a 100-meter dash in 13 seconds flat. Undoubtedly a new personal best. She spurred on her weakened heart, knowing full well the fate that awaited her. The fate!
入れば追ってくる。地下に行けば逃げられない。
It can't help but follow me. And once down here, there'll be no escape.
当然よね。最後まで逃げ回ろうなんて、虫のいい話だった。
I should have expected that. It was too much to expect that I could keep up the chase forever. Hindsight was 20/20. The castle was only a minute away from collapsing completely. If they stayed here, they would both be crushed by the rubble. The puppet certainly did not care. With no life of its own, its sole concern was the elimination of its target, Aoko Azaki. Indeed, the enemy had been willing to die from the start. She resented her own lack of resolve. It wasn't like her to tuck tail and run from an opponent that didn't fear death.
Vivo in somno, solitare putoresque inferis. Ictius meus obitus dies, et meus nativus dies. Teobeam.
Vivo in somno, solitaire putresco in infernus. Ictius meus obitus dies, et meus nativus dies. Teobeam.
そもそも自爆覚悟じゃない、あれ。
It's always been on a suicide mission, huh?
六足歩行とフィンの一撃は使いすぎよ。もう呪詛による魔力補給じゃ間に合わない。
It doesn't have enough juice to power the six-legged form and the fin shots. The curses aren't recharging it fast enough. Such a perpetual motion device is only as good as its ability to regulate its energy consumption. Using so many functions at once meant it was burning through fuel quickly and losing the ability to process the curses that powered it. It was using up all the functions it had been given to achieve its aim. This was the pride of a tool, if such things could have ego. Those endowed with sentience could never hope to understand. A beast born to do nothing but run would burn any human who faced its resolve.
ほんと、もったいない。
It's a waste when you think about it.
こういう無茶をするのは姉貴だけかと思ってたけど、いるところにはいるもんね。
I thought my sister was the only one capable of something this reckless. But I guess I was wrong. But Aoko did not intend to sacrifice play here. She respected her adversary now, and she was done regretting her choices. There was no time to waste.
行くわよ。ここできっかり。
So her sister is still doing magic. Interesting. This is it. This ends now. Aoko had every intention of paying it back double for what it had done to her. The energy Aoko had accumulated exploded out of her right leg. She aimed for a single thing, a head-on attack. The enemy responded with a lethal curse that reached for her heart like a set of talons. Humming with power, it meant to rend Aoko's heart and burn itself out in the process. As soon as she saw it, Aoko kicked the floor as hard as she could. Her long hair swirled through the air as she flipped aside. This lateral move almost sent her tumbling to the ground, but a quick swing of her arm allowed her to regain her balance. A shot grazed her arm, the curse scorching her left shoulder. She did not flinch. Aoko knew she could hold on as long as she continued to avoid a direct fin shot.
Snap!
Snap! Off balance and in pain, it took her half a second to recover. The moment she raised her head, she deflected the attack with a fist full of magical energy.
せーの!
Here goes! If the puppet had a will of its own, its eyes would have popped right out of its sockets. They would have been floored. Shocked at the strong will that allowed this girl to perform a series of moves like this.
Crack!
Crack! Aoko's response was instantaneous. While her power was not sufficient to completely redirect the arm's trajectory, it was just enough to deflect it harmlessly past her hair.
Initio eraberamos dum bibimus dolores sunt. Nemo adiuvat, nemo adiuvat, nemo adiuvat.
Initio eravams, dum vivimus dolores sunt, nemo adiuvat, nemo adiuvat, nemo adiuvat. The chant became a curse that robbed Aoko of her vitality. Did it still have something left in the tank, or was it actually indignant? Whatever the reason, Aoko was easily able to resist its weakened defensive maneuver. Slam! Glider! And her right end, and her right leg, pulsing with magical energy, shot into the puppet's chest from below. Damn, so many CGs. Was infinite CG budget works. My god. It was much lighter than Aoko anticipated. Or rather, she felt little resistance. An automaton's weight was determined by its internals, the size of its power source. Ironically, it was the superiority of its music box engine that would prove to be its downfall.
Venite, venite, venite. Meum sepulchrum, venite.
Venite, venite, venite. Meum sepulchrum venite. A stuttering curse. Damn, she just straight up kicked it to death. Having taken the full brunt of Aoko's kick, the puppet bounced from ceiling to floor, collapsing in a heap. Its internal construction had been warped by the impact, leaving the drum of the music box that powered the puppet warped as well.
恨むなら設計者を恨みなさい。
Take your design flaws up with your maker.
ダイナモの一つでも積んでいれば、もうちょっとは重たくなったでしょうに。
A single dynamo would have been all you needed to... Wait, what the? Did you forget about your own bomb? Part of the ceiling came crashing down in front of Aoko, snapping her back to her senses.
ところで今、どうやってぶっ倒したんだろう。
Did I really just take her out? She was so stunned by her own victory that she forgot the House of Mirrors had already begun to collapse. Oh god.
こっちの方がやばかった。
I gotta get out of here! There was no time to relish in her victory or pity her opponent. And unless she wanted to meet the same fate! As the situation stood, she found it hard to imagine getting out alive.
急げ、ダッシュだ私。
Get a move on, Aoko! She clapped herself in the cheeks to motivate herself anew. This was her bounty for finishing their battle in a matter of seconds. Her breath ragged with excitement, Aoko ran for the exit. The collapse was intensifying by the second. Having lost its support pillars, the castle was buckling under its own weight.
この邪魔。
Out of my way! Escaping from the basement was proving to be no easy task. While she was taking the shortest route possible through the maze, she was nearly crushed by a falling piece of the ceiling along the way. This was the second time, no, third, she had to deal with fallen rubble along the way. She destroyed the debris on the stairs with magic bullets as she ran. The automaton's jamming had long since worn off. The earlier attack had damaged the vast majority of its functions. Ah! There we go. Aoko's breathing was heavy as she ran. Desperation sparked her brain into overdrive. The ceiling seemed to be collapsing in slow motion. Life seemed to flash before her very eyes. Each second stretched into 5. Her frayed nerves made it hard to tell the time. Oh shit! There was debris rubbled through the stairway, forcing her to crawl up it. She emerged from the destroyed basement into the collapsing first floor. The plaza was still traversable at all was a miracle in itself. Unfortunately for her, the crucial path to the exit was still intact.
よし、ついてる。
I made it! The corridor to the entrance was still intact. The basement maze only extended as far as the plaza, so the entrance corridor wouldn't collapse. Only the ceiling would cave in, leaving the scaffolding surrounding intact. She got herself this far by telling herself repeatedly that fate would decide whether or not she reached the plaza. Her gamble paid off. It was her lucky day. All she'd do was mutter the last of her strength and keep moving forward until... She hesitated for a fraction of a second. Was it naivete? A sense of responsibility? She pushed aside the image that popped into her head and continued running down the corridor.
言っとくけど、時間合わせの余裕はないわよ。
We don't have the luxury of coordinating the timing with each other to pull this off.
そんな上等な作戦じゃないし、お互いできることをやったら最速で出口に向かいましょう。
It's not the greatest plan in the world, but we both need to do our parts and get to the exit as quickly as possible. That was 5 minutes ago. At the time, Soujirou had nodded with trepidation. And Aoko had not bothered to ask herself why.
何様だっての私。今は走ることだけ考えろ。
What are you spacing out for? Just focus on running! The corridor was giving out too. If she were to look back, she was sure she would see the building collapsing in on her. She was also sure she had no time to waste doing so. Her luck was fading as fast as the building's structural integrity. It was a small miracle that she had escaped serious injury up to this point. She could not afford even the slightest slip-up. An ankle sprain, loss of balance, or even a sneeze would be fatal. A simple pat on the back was enough to end it. So naturally... Oh. What the fuck? There it was, clear as day. From the detritus of the stairway, death had arisen to take her down with it. A corpse that had crawled its way up from the depths of hell itself. It was still operational. And it was still armed with curses. It had crawled after her, watching as Aoko desperately tried to save herself. The puppet's arm shot forward. While Aoko did not turn to meet it, she could see his reflection in the mirrors.
E salvate, E salvatio, e salvatio.
E salvatio, e salvatio, e salvatio, e salvatio. Extend, extend, extend. This time, she could not dodge it. There was absolutely nothing she could do. The puppet with her face sang,
Venit domum meum,
I invite you
lut sine somnium,
to die a muddy death.
et pulvere simile quotidiano,
Become as whispering dust.
cor prego,
Gouge out your heart.
te iudico.
Death be upon you. What? For a moment, she could not believe her eyes. It was the last thing she'd expected to see.
しつこいぞお前。
Don't know what to give up, do you?
A fierce expression adorned the face of the boy who'd been waiting in the plaza as he smashed the puppet's outstretched arm. Anger really did not suit him at all. His weapon of choice was a fire extinguisher. There we go! He must have searched the maze for something to use as a weapon. No, never mind that. It was too crazy to contemplate, but had he stayed behind for her? Ah, there we go. I knew he would. I knew he would. Suzuki! Aoko stopped the feet she had sworn she would never stop moving, extended a hand out to him.
そんなのほっといていいから早く
That's enough, leave it, we have to go! Soujirou tossed the fire extinguisher aside and took off running. So not yet. I know he will in the future. Not yet, but I know he will. Pieces of the ceiling continued to collapse like dominoes. They kept moving with dust and dirt following in their wake. Their shadows raced through the collapsing corridor with all their strength. The castle was in the throes of death, with a massive crash and a cloud of dust. The final chapter of the fairy tale that had been Kitsyland came to an abrupt end. Whew. This duel to the death was over. For a moment, amidst the swirling emotions, any past enmity was forgotten. The two collapsed on the lawn and basked in strange solidarity. The ringing in their ears subsided before long. A tremor of this magnitude seemed impossible in an amusement park like this. As the sounds of destruction echoed across the park, Aoko addressed the individual at her side.
ねえ生きてる
Hey, you alive?
うん。
Yeah.
ちぇ
While the click of her tongue was adorable, the meaning behind it was anything but.
青崎、あいつどうなった？
Azaki? What happened to that thing?
見ての通りよ今頃バラバラ死体になってるんじゃない
What do you think? It was crushed to bits. Soujirou sighed, not wholly relieved by her frank response. His reason.
でもそんな心配より自分の心配をした方がいいと思うわよ
Never,
鈴木くん
never mind that thing. You should be worrying about yourself. He wasn't out of the woods yet, after all.
青崎、子供の頃はいじめっ子だっただろ。
Azaki? I'm guessing you were a bit of a bully as a kid.
可逆趣味はないって自負してるけど
Maybe. But I don't get a kick out of seeing people suffer.
それで今の自分の立場分かってる
Never mind that. Do you know the situation you're in right now? She sat up and smiled. Soujirou hung his head in shame, wondering why her kind tone and expression were so chilling.
面目次第もございません。
Please accept my sincerest apologies.
かしこまってもダメよあの提案には大前提があったわよねこれは取引だってあなたが役に立つのなら見逃してあげるっていう
Oh no, don't you even start. You know what our agreement was, and a deal is a deal. If you held up your end of the bargain, I'd let you go.
わかってる。だから面目ないって言ってるだろ。
Exactly. And that's why I'm apologizing.
Soujirou made a show of avoiding her eyes, like a pouting child. Aoko was taken aback by this sulky display. Perhaps he was angry at himself rather than her. He was not mad because she would not let him go. He was mad that he had not done his part. Aoko sighed for it seemed like the millionth time that day. She could not figure out what surprised her more, his unconditional kindness or her naive approval of it.
じゃあ覚悟はできてるの？
So, are you ready?
そんなのはできないけど、約束だからな。結局は何もしていないし。
Of course not. But a promise is a promise. In the end, I failed to do my part.
It was certainly the case that he failed to do any of the things she had expected of him. But just then, she glanced back at the collapsed house of mirrors. What had he done after failing so spectacularly? He had searched for the extinguisher so he could use it as a weapon, and waited patiently in the plaza as the maids collapsed all around him, just because he thought it was wrong to leave her behind. It was a foolish choice, and the exact opposite of her choice to run toward the exit without hesitation.
ま、それでよしとするか。
I suppose I'll take it. She was satisfied, even as she was shocked at how naive she was being. It was true that he had saved her. She smiled inwardly, admiring, if only for a moment, the bravery he continued to show in the face of such extreme circumstances.
役割は果たさなかったけど、アフターケアは合格だし、約束は守らなくちゃね。
You may have blown your chance, but you did make up for it after the fact. I'll keep my promise. With a nod, she pulled herself to her feet.
約束は、ま、いつか守ってもらうとして。
But you'll pay back this favor someday. The girl tried to keep a straight face as she offered a hand to the boy still lying on the ground.
結果はどうあれ手助けしてもらったし、
You managed to help me in the end.
特別サービスってことで、今夜はもう手を出さないであげる。
So because of that, I'll let you off the hook for tonight. How is she going to explain this to Alice, I wonder?
Huh?
She bashfully averted her gaze. Though her profile appeared different than it had in the past, it was clearly still the face of the vibrant girl he met the day he first arrived in town.
何？
What are you staring at? As if she had felt his eyes on her, she shot him a frowning glare.
いや、突拍子もないけど、青崎は律儀だなって。
Oh, sorry. It's just as crazy as it is to say aloud. You really are a fair person, Ozaki.
He took her outstretched hand. Feeling his weight as she pulled him up, she could not help but think that he was about the last person she wanted to hear that from.
ところで、今夜はって言うけど、明日からは。
By the way, you said you'd let me off the hook for tonight. What about tomorrow?
さ、ま、その時になったら考えるわ。
Well, we'll just have to see. She shrugged her shoulders as if she was not sure herself. Her response was so unlike her it made Soujirou smile. Was it the solidarity of having escaped death together, or their fleeting camaraderie that made him do so? It might have been for this night only, but the air between them was kind and gentle. A lot had transpired, but the midwinter nightmare had come to an end. The pair had overcome many trials and tribulations, and could now leave the mirror realm in their wake. But before that,
随分と身勝手ね。
How selfish of you.
それはあなた一人で決めていいことだったかしら、青子。
How selfish of you. And who, may I ask, said you could decide that, Aoko? Yep. What the fuck is this? Oh, it's Alice. I knew it. I knew Alice would be pissed about this. It was the voice of a beautiful songbird and a merciless machine all rolled into
Alice.
one. Alice. Her voice quivered as she spoke the name. The lady in black made her presence known. The night was not yet over. Her name was Alice Kwanji. She was a witch whose name struck fear into the heart of Aoko, an avatar of the night who would allow no witnesses. Ooh, perfect time. All right, you guys. Well, with that, we will leave this cliffhanger to you next time. Woo boy, 3 hours on the dot. Thank you all so much for joining me. Oh my god. Yep, I knew Alice would not be happy about this. My god. Oh my god. I can't. This is the most budget I've ever seen. Like, the quality is of this visual novel is off the absolute chain. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, how many CGs were there for that scene alone? Like, what the hell? Like oh god. Jeez. Thank you. Like, my god. I really want to find out what is up with Aoko's morality. Like, and Soujirou, I think they almost form quite a good pair, because Soujirou himself is kind of fucked up too in the opposite direction. So I'm very curious about both of them and how they became who they are, both physically and mentally. You know, spiritually and mentally, I should say. But, god damn. What quality. I cannot wait for next time. And until then, I will say, so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, good night. You were all the sweetest of